Hey fam, we're back with another banger. What if Naruto x Cana Alberona? So before we start, if you are craving adult mature content, join my Patreon now, link are in the description box. Alright, enough talk, let's fire it up. Uchiha Obito, the Uchiha who awakened the Mangekyo Sharingan at the age of 14 and single-handedly orchestrated a war between 5 dominant nations and who had indirectly caused the resurrection of the Usagi no Megami rabbit goddess, was currently in immense pain and practically knocking on death's door. Obito. Kakashi's eyes widened in surprise as he looked towards his teammate who had been impaled by a bone fired from Kagaya. I guess this it. Obito smiled before he violently coughed out blood, having no regrets on decision he had just made to sacrifice himself. Why did you? Kakashi began before tears formed in his eyes. It was a short reunion that the Raiden lightning-style shinobi wished it would have lasted forever. I'm going to meet Rin. I can't let you spoil that by coming to the afterlife with me. Obito grinned as the technique started to set in motion. His body started to crumble away, down to the molecular level as it gathered on the floor as a pile of ash. Kakashi, promise me something, Obito told Kakashi with heavy pauses. Finish and do what I couldn't, Obito asked of Kakashi, making Kakashi only nod in response. A stray tear fell down and rolled down the Uchiha's face from his right, Sharingan-wielding eye. Obito's body had now decomposed into nothing but ash. Obito! Kakashi yelled at the death of his friend. Obito's spirit could be seen departing from his body. Hey, Kakashi! You're so hopeless, the former Ten Tails Jinchuriki chuckled before some of his spirit's body merged into Kakashi. I've lent you some of my powers, but it isn't permanent. Use it wisely, Obito told the copy ninja as he had now obtained a full set of Mangekyo Sharingan. Obito then disintegrated away into the air as he was now nowhere to be seen. Everything then turned white for Obito as he soon found himself in his former body when he was a child. When his transformation stopped, he landed in what seemed an infinite space of pure white. Obito surveyed his blank surroundings in his old clothes. The outfit consisted of a navy blue jumpsuit paired with a long-sleeved, unzipped jacket the same color that covered up the jumpsuit's sleeve. He also sported a white belt and goggles with orange lenses that also protected his ears. To top it all off, he wore shinobi sandals and the standard Konoha head protector. He then spotted Rin in the distance as his eyes widened in shock before he started crying. He ran to the former Sanbi Three Tails Jinchuriki while still crying like a baby before reaching and hugging his teammate, taking her by surprise. Rin was once a shinobi of Konohagakure who excelled in medical ninjutsu. She had short but straight brown hair with a matching eye color. Two vertical, purple rectangles were clearly visible on her cheeks as she sported a long-sleeved black shirt with an apron-looking type of skirt hanging around her waist that covered the black shorts she wore. Like her childhood friend, she also donned a pair of shinobi sandals and a forehead protector. Furthermore, she was on the same squad as Kakashi and the person she was meeting with. Now, their sensei was the renowned Kuroi Senko Yellow Flash Namikaze Minato. The man who utilized the Hiraishin no Jutsu Flying Thunder God technique that allowed him to travel at speeds that surpass that of even Raikage's. Their sensei established himself as a worthy ninja as was chosen to represent their village as the Yondaime Hokage, 4th Hokage. Rin. Obito sobbed in a comedy way as he looked like he had just found his long-lost sibling. I've been waiting for you, the Chunin told Obito cheerfully. Unfortunately though, Rin began with a depressed look plastered on her face. Unfortunately what? Obito asked confusedly. Our reunion will have to be cut short. The kunoichi hastily informed the dark-haired boy. Why? Obito questioned her, making Rin scratch the back of her head while trying to think of a way of putting it without hurting his feelings or doing anything else of the sort. Don't worry, I'll take it from here. An elderly yet authoritative voice behind him notified the brown-haired female. The boy who possessed the Sharingan slowly turned around, and as he turned round to face the person who spoke, he gradually became more older and older until he had undergone a complete transformation into his adult form which he was used to. He was now face to face with a somewhat elderly man. He bared a striking resemblance to Kagaya and the Sage of Six Paths with his waist length gray, which was probably once white, hair. Additionally, he possessed a pair of Byakugan and horns sprouting out his head. He wore a full-length kimono that had a much light hue than his hair with a pattern of 6 black magatama around a high collar. He has also a sword in a sheath attached to his hips as well as the sign for the 6 paths yin power on his left palm. You may not recognize me or mistake me as someone else, but I am Otsutsuki Hamura. My brother is the renowned Rakudo Sennin, Sage of 6 Paths, otherwise known as Otsutsuki Hagoromo, and my moth was the one you were fighting before you died due to her jutsu, the Usagi no Megami, the rabbit goddess, Otsutsuki Kagaya. The figure introduced himself. My brother should have been the one telling you this, but it seems he's currently busy at the moment. Hamura notified the former Jubi, 10 Tails, Jinchuriki. Obito was in shock at who was standing before him. Out of respect and gratitude, he knelt down before his presence only for Hamura to gesture him up from the floor. I see no need for such actions. In order to attain peace, we must all see each other as equals, Hamura declared as Obito stood up. Hamura then continued with his speech. What your friend was trying to get across is that you haven't atoned for your sins you committed in your past life. So in order to pay for that, you will not be spending any time here with your friend. Hamura explained, making Obito fear what was going to happen next. I don't think I committed that much sins, Obito sheepishly confessed with a chuckle while trying to recall how much bad deeds he had done. At the age of 15, you nearly killed your sensei, who was also the kage of your village. That would have destroyed the whole morale in the village. On that very same night, you forcefully extracted a biju, tailed beast, out of its host's body, leaving the host in a near-dead state, and used that same biju to nearly destroy your home village. Not to mention that you were acquainted with host you extracted the biju out of. If it weren't for the sacrifice of both the host and the cage, you would have caused more than 2 deaths. To summarize it all up, in one night, you committed 5 major sins that will never be forgotten. Keeping in mind this, a select few of the horrible deeds you have executed in your past life. Should I continue? The elderly man asked, making Obito gain a guilty face as he was shamed in front of his crush and shamed by such an important man. I won't be going to hell, right? The shinobi questioned nervously. That was originally going to happen to you, but that has now changed. You'll be sent elsewhere. Where? Obito inquired. Right now, in another world. They're on the brink of extinction, Hamura told the man who possessed a Rinnegan. Another world. Obito's jaw dropped. Another world would be different to his dimension that he could transport to at will. Unlike his own dimension, the world would probably function on its own and have its own inhabitants with its own type of power source. The world is similar yet different to the world you live in now. If you save them and pay back your sins, you may be able to return back here and meet your friend. The Otsutsuki explained. The former missing nin repeated in shock. Due to the fact that you have committed a number of sins in your lifetime, my brother and I will decide if you have done enough to return. Hamura explained further. Obito had no choice but to obey to what he was told. You can say your goodbyes to your friend, but you only have a few seconds to do so, as their world is currently in great trouble that needs to be averted as soon as possible. The older man informed Obito, who nodded in response. The younger man spun around and went through another transformation back into his kid and walked over to his crush. Rin, I hardly had any time to talk to you, but I'll make it up to you when I come back, Obito promised Rin while hugging her, making her blush lightly, but this went unnoticed by Uchiha Obito. You better, Rin responded while tears started to form in her eyes. Hamura then tapped Obito on his shoulder, signaling that his time was up. The joint first person born with chakra then went through a long set of hand seals before clapping his hands together. A giant unknown red seal with encrypted writing on it on the floor. The Uchiha tightened his grip on Rin before his body started turning white before he disintegrated into the air. The white infinite space turned pitch black, and now Obito suddenly felt like he was falling into a very, very deep hole. The familiar presence of the Sharingan and Rinnegan suddenly hit him. But then something strange happened in his left eye. He felt the presence of a Sharingan in it. The Sharingan he was meant to have given to Kakashi. 2 Sharingan, he thought. He was not used to this feeling in both of his eyes. He felt chakra pumping through his whole body. He then saw light in this seamless black place, and he was falling directly to it. He reached the light and it seemed to be some sort of portal. He went through it and seemed to land in the middle of a fight. Obito landed where a man with red eyes and gray hair was fighting a boy with pink hair. The boy with pink hair seemed to be staring down in shock at a blue-haired man. Everybody in the room turned to Obito. Reinforcements, I presume. The man with red eyes grinned evilly. What type of crappy person did they send? I can't even feel your magic power. The man laughed. They could take on the great Master Zero with trash like you. He yelled as he cackled like a maniac. Obito was still taking in all of his surroundings. He presumed this Zero guy was the bad guy. Quote, that can't be a reinforcement sent by from our allies. Like Zero pointed out, I can't sense any magical power from him whatsoever. And there is no spell that can teleport someone else other than themselves when not in contact with them. If I were to make a conclusion, I'd say it was a distortion in space and time, but that can't really be possible. The blue-haired man thought. I don't know why. Oh, you are and what you want with these people, but I can promise you this, if you even twitch a muscle to attack me or any of the people behind me, I can guarantee your death. Obito told Zero darkly. This made Zero laugh at him more. Is that a threat? A threat to Master Zero of all people? You've got guts, kid. It's a shame they won't be working after this battle. Zero yelled at Obito, still howling with laughter. Zero couldn't wipe off the grin on his face as he slowly slid his feet back to attack Obito. You twitched. Obito muttered under his breath as his eyes started to gleam. Play Fairy Tail OST Dragon Force. Obito started down Zero before running at him with immense speed, surprising his opponent and the spectators. Obito punched Zero all the way to the other side. Zero growled, and with a quick swish of his hand, he sent a whip that seemed to consist of a green beam and fire swirling around it. Obito easily dodged and ran at Zero again, this time, landing more hits than his last move. Zero was easily being pushed back by Obito with just the use of taijutsu. Zero had no time to use any of his moves as he was continuously being struck by Obito. Zero managed to dodge one punch and blasted a beam into Obito, pushing Obito back, but Obito managed to stay on his feet. Zero then shot out multiple spheres of the power he used before, trying to hit Obito with it, but Obito flawlessly dodged. Daku Rondo. Dark Rondo, Zero shouted as a large amount of magic gathered on both of his palms. He then put his hands on top of each other as the magic on both of his hands merged. He then shot the magic in a large beam at Obito. As soon as Obito saw Zero execute his move, he swiftly executed 7 hand seals before shouting, Kaden, Goka Meshitsu. Fire style. Great fire destruction. Obito released a massive flamethrower from his mouth, making Zero's move look puny in size. Obito's fire completely obliterated Zero's move and hurt Zero himself badly. The fire had pushed him all the way to the wall on the other side. When Zero crashed into the wall, he coughed out blood and fell onto the floor, leaving an indent on the wall. Zero quickly stood back up. Daku Gurabati. Dark gravity. Zero barked as the gravity around Obito suddenly got dense, but Obito wasn't even fazed by the gravity. The ground suddenly collapsed beneath Obito, making him fall to the lower floors. He was all talk. No weird eye scumbag could ever face up to my power anyways. Zero stated with a defiant smirk, but before he could even react, Obito appeared behind him via with his chakra-enhanced speed and force F. Yuli kicked Zero into the hole he created with his gravity magic. As Zero fell, Zero used his Daku Capriccio, Dark Capriccio whip to latch onto Obito's leg and pull Obito down with him, but Obito quickly countered by using his Rinnegan to create a dark orb near the center of the room, which acted as the center of gravity. Zero was pulled towards the orb against his will as his magic whip dissipated as he got closer. The ground was also pulled into it, trapping Zero in the middle of it. Obito's allies were struggling not to be pulled into it, but it soon stopped sucking everything in. Ostend. I warned you. Obito smirked. He knew he had won, or so he had presumed. Obito started to need chakra in his stomach before going through a set of hand seals. Kaden. Gokaku no Jutsu. Fire style. Grand fireball technique. Obito shouted as he released a ginormous fireball from his mouth, on its way to destroy the boulder that had formed because of Obito's Rinnegan technique, Chibaku Tensai, planetary devastation. The boulder, which had Zero encased in it, slowly started emitting a bright green light through its cracks as the fireball neared it. As the fireball was about to come into contact, the boulder ferociously exploded as debris flew in all directions. The force of the explosion blew the fire away into nothingness. Zero was growling at Obito, his eyes full of hatred. "You bitch. I'll slaughter you until you go to hell." Zero roared, but what Obito did surprised Zero. "Same here," Obito replied, matching Zero's evil glare. This was very unnerving for Zero, making Zero panic. See and instantly try to use his ultimate move. "Have a taste of this, you piece of shit. All history shall meet its end before me. Including you." Zero yelled in anger as a large amount of energy gathered on his hands. "And a new genesis of nothingness shall begin. Genesis Zero. Genesis Zero." Zero boomed as phantoms started forming around him. "Gate of the damned, I open thee," Zero announced, as multiple phantoms rushed towards Obito. "Devour his souls, his memories, his entire existence. In this damned world, kill him," Zero told the phantoms. "Be gone, by the name of Zero." Zero screamed. The phantoms slowly devoured Obito's soul, and soon Obito was nowhere to be seen. He had been turned into nothingness. Zero laughed like a maniac before coughing out blood. He had used a lot of his magic power, and the beating he got from Obito didn't help his case either. "Did you really think?" a voice began, making Zero startled. Zero instantly widened his eyes. "That I would die so easily?" Obito rhetorically asked. "What are you? A monster?" Zero questioned in fear. "I'm just a guy who's a hero for fun," Obito told Zero. "What?" Zero blurted out at Obito's weird response. "Just kidding. But your strength is something not to underestimate. If I did underestimate it by chance, this fight would have not ended as quickly as this." Obito praised Zero. "So you're telling me that you would have won no matter how hard I tried?" Zero inquired. Obito nodded in response at Zero's question. "It must have been an unlucky day for you to run into me," Obito told Zero. "And now I'm going to finish what we started," Obito informed Zero while picking him up by his collar before holding Zero's neck with one hand. A pole slid out from Obito's available palm, and Obito used it to stab Zero in the chest. Obito let the black pole stay in Zero's body for a while before carefully sliding it out of his body. The pole went back into Obito as Zero coughed up some more blood. Obito then punched Zero all the way to the other side of the room. That was a tough fight, even though it was pretty one-sided. "And what is this place? There isn't any chakra flowing in the air, meaning my chakra recovery is much slower, but at the same time, there seems to be some other type of energy all around me." Obito pondered as he slowly turned around and walked over to his allies. His allies were surprised, especially the pink-haired boy. They were surprised at his strength. It was a display of power they had never seen before. And not to mention, his opponent was not an easy walk in the park. "Are you guys okay?" Obito asked the blue-haired man and the pink-haired boy upon approaching them. "Why, yeah," the pink-haired boy stuttered in his answer as he was still surprised at the strength of Obito. Kind of," the blue-haired man responded as he was severely hurt. "My name is Uchiha Obito." Obito introduced himself. Obito was going to continue, but it would be best to save his story until he knew he could trust them. "My name is Natsu." The boy introduced himself. "My name is Jello." The blue-haired man managed to cough out. No, it's not over. It's not over." Zero started talking to himself from the other side of the room. "It's not over." Zero then screamed from the other side of the room as a seal formed on Zero's body. "I'm gonna take you all with me," Zero told Obito and the rest while laughing. "Crap, that's the Joritsu Hokai Mahojin self-destruction spell," Jello informed Obito and Natsu. "We're currently in the radius of the blast. It'll probably destroy the whole room." Al stated as light then started gather near Zero. "You guys can leave me behind. I'll only be a burden. You guys still have a chance of escape," Jello told Natsu and Obito. Obito stared at Zero, who was about to explode. "I'll be back," Obito told Natsu and Jello before pumping chakra to his feet and running to Zero in a matter of seconds before trying to use his Kamui to teleport himself and Zero away. It suddenly came clear to Obito that he couldn't access Kamui. "What the heck?" Obito asked himself in his head. "How comes I can't use it? Out of all the times as well." Obito internally sighed. "I'm not sure how strong the explosion will be, so I can't rely on my Rinnegan to repulse it." That would be a huge mistake on my part. I guess I have to do it the old-fashioned way. Quote, he concluded before picking Zero up by the collar and driving him into the wall, breaking the bricks with the force and pushing him into the outside, falling inevitably to his death, though if his spell detonates before that, it would be death by explosion. Obito was slightly off balance and there was a possibility of him falling as well, but after channeling chakra to his feet, the issue was resolved. Obito. Natsu and Jelil shouted at the now gone Obito. Why would he do such a thing? Jelil asked. He only just met us. An explosion was then heard outside. Natsu, he sacrificed his life. For us, the best we can do now is to destroy the lacrima. Jelil told Natsu. But I don't have enough magic power. Natsu told Jelil. Jelal's palm then ignited in the Toga no Hano, flame of rebuke, and shot it at Natsu. The flame covered Natsu and Natsu slowly devoured the flames and gained a Toga no Hano Doragon Fosu, flame of rebuke dragon force. Gurren Huken, Crimson Lotus, Phoenix BL. 8 Natsu shouted as he finished eating the flames. He jumped at the giant lacrima head first while flames covered his body. He hit the lacrima with the devastating move and destroyed it completely. Natsu landed on the floor as his Doragon Fosu deactivated. Obito then suddenly teleported back in the room, surprising Natsu and Jelil. Obito didn't even have a scratch on his body. Multiple other explosions were then heard as the giant spider-like structure began to collapse. Looks like the rest did what was expected of them as well. Jelil smiled. Natsu started walking to Jelil, but the ground collapsed beneath Natsu. Jelil grabbed Natsu's hand to stop him falling. Don't let go. Jelil gritted his teeth trying to pull Natsu up. Idiot. You're also in trouble, you know. Natsu told Jelil. Looks like we have to get out of here. Obito told them while looking at the crumbling surroundings, surprising both Natsu and Jelil. They both thought he was dead. But how? Jelil asked, trying to still pull Natsu up. Obito's Mangekyo Sharingan glowed before teleporting himself and his comrades out of the building. They teleported outside where everybody was waiting for them. Once they got outside, everybody got in a fighting stance when they saw Obito. A new enemy? A shirtless man asked. But he has Natsu and Jelil. A lady with red hair noticed as a spear teleported into her hand. Don't worry guys. This guy ain't an enemy. Natsu told the group of people. They all seemed to calm down upon hearing this. A short blue-haired girl ran up to Natsu and hugged him. Natsu-san. The girl sobbed, taking the boy by surprise. You really kept your promise, the girl said, making Natsu smile. Thank you for saving my guild, the girl thanked Natsu. It's because we all had the power, right? Natsu told her. All of us. The girl questioned Natsu. You have the power too, Wendy. Natsu told her as they both looked on at their comrades of around 8 people. This time, give me a happy high five. Natsu told her as they high-fived with them both smiling. Everyone, you did great. A bald man that went by the name of Juranikis praised the group. This completes our mission. An odd-looking but very muscular man that was called Ichiya informed the group. Ew, a blonde girl commented on Ichiya's weird appearance. And who is that? The shirtless man asked, looking at Jelil. Is he one of those hosts from Blue Pegasus? The shirtless man asked. I don't remember one like that, the blonde woman responded. That's Jelil. The red-haired woman asked, causing the blonde whoa. Man and the shirtless man too shout in shock. But that's not the Jelil we know. The red-haired woman told them. It seems like he's lost his memories. The blue-haired girl notified them. Yeah, even so, the shirtless man told the girl. I'm sure it's fine. Jelil is actually a good person. The girl told them. At any rate, we must give him our thanks for his help. The red-hair woman walked over to Jelil. Urza. Jelil looked surprised by her warm attitude. No, you have nothing to thank me for. What do you plan to do after this? Urza inquired, making Jelil think for a couple of seconds. I don't know, he finally responded. That sounds about right, Urza supposed. Answers do not come easily for you and me. This was met by a few seconds of silence. I'm scared, Jelil confessed. Scared? Urza questioned in confusion. What if my memories return? Jelil asked in fear. Jelil, Urza worried. I'm with you. Her worried face soon turned into a smile as Jelil was surprised by her remark. Even if we come to hate each other once again, as you are now, I cannot leave you be. Urza admitted. Urza, Jelal said, her name still in shock. Urza began before her sentence was interrupted by Ichiya shouting. Amen. What's the matter, dude? The shirtless man asked. I was about to release some parfum in the bushes when I ran into something, Ichiya announced. There are some markings on the ground. The blue-haired girl noticed. These are, Jura muttered. Runes. The whole group exclaimed in surprise. Mean. My toilet, Ichiya complained while also sobbing. When did this? A talking white cat asked. What's going on? A talking blue cat net to her asked while panicking at the same time. The same ones as freed, the shirtless man uttered to himself. It's just as, no. It's even more powerful. We're trapped. The blonde inspected her surroundings while worrying. Show yourself. Natsu shouted, eager for a fight yet kind of angry as well. A large group that could be considered the size of a small army walked up to them and surrounded them from all directions. Their leader seemed to be a man with black hair who wore glasses. Who are they? The girl asked. It's gonna leak out, Ichiya stated, trying to keep his pee in. I wish to do you no harm. All I desire you is to stay here without moving, for a little while. The leader informed them. Who are you? The blue cat questioned while shouting. I am the captain of the Reformed Magic Council's 4th Enforcement and Detention Corps. My name is Lahar. Lahar introduced himself. Who? Natsu asked in fear and surprise. Reformed Magic Council. The shirtless man questioned in surprise. They're already back in business. The blonde shrieked. We have been reborn, Lahar continued. To uphold the law and protect justice. We have no mercy for those that commit evil acts. Lahar finished his sentence. What do you mean? The white cat asked. We haven't done anything wrong. The blue cat responded even though he was scared. All right, sure we didn't, Natsu agreed nervously. That didn't sound very convincing, Lucy told Natsu. I am aware. Lahar told the group. Our purpose is to arrest Oracion Cease. Please hand over that person codenamed Hotai to us. Lahar asked, looking at the rather tall figure that had ginger hair. His face, however, looked like it had been built with bricks. Everybody was surprised upon hearing this. Although he was at first an enemy, he was now an ally. Wait a minute. Jura ran up to Lahar to plead with him as the guards got ready to fight. It is okay, Jura. The tall man told Jura. Richard Dono, Jura said in surprise. Even if my soul has been awakened to righteousness, that does not wipe clean my past evil ways. I wish to start over from the beginning. That way, when I finally reunite with my brother, I can look him eye to eye. Richard told Jura. Then, I shall search for your brother in your stead. Jura declared. You will? Richard asked in shock, happy that Jura would do such a thing for him. Please tell me your brother's name. Jura asked. His name is Wally. Wally Buchanan. Richard informed Jura, making the blonde. The shirtless man and Natsu seemed to recall something. Wally. Urza mumbled in surprise. Blockhead. Natsu and his friends shouted in surprise. Wally was, Richard began. Truly an honest and kind younger brother. Richard admitted. Actually, I know that man. Urza told Richard while walking up to him. Jura and Richard both turned around swiftly in surprise. He is my friend, Urza informed them. He is now energetically traveling around the continent. Urza told Richard, making his eyes swell up with tears. Is this what they call a miracle, bestowed only to those who believe in the light? Richard asked while crying as the bright moon slowly appeared from the clouds. Thank you. Richard thanked Urza and the rest. He could not be happier. Thank you. Richard thanked them again. He kept repeating this as he was so happy. I feel kind of sorry for him, the blonde woman commented. The blue cat agreed. Ah well, the shirtless man sighed. There isn't anything we can do for him. The white cat pointed out. Enough already. Just unseal the runes. Ichiya begged, who was bursting to pee. Don't. The blonde pleaded with Ichiya. Nobody wanted to see hot liquid flying everywhere. No. Our true objective is not Oracion Cease. Lahar admitted, causing the group to be suspicious as that was different from what he told them a few minutes ago. The one who infiltrated the Magic Council, destroyed it, and fired Etherian. Lahar began. There is a far greater evildoer among you, yes. Lahar told them, tilting his glasses upwards to refrain it from falling. You, Jelal. Lahar glared at Jelal. Come. Lahar ordered. If you resist, I have orders to use lethal force. Lahar informed Jelal, who had no choice but to turn himself in. But that's, the blue-haired girl began. Hold it a second. Natsu protested. That man is dangerous. Lahar told everyone. We cannot allow him loose in this world again. Lahar told them. Jelal walked over to Lahar and got placed in anti-magic cuffs by the knights. Jelal Fernandez, I hereby place you under arrest for the crime of high treason against the state. Lahar announced. Please wait. Jelal has lost his memories. He doesn't remember a thing. The blue-haired girl pleaded with Lahar. By Clause 13 of the Criminal Code, that is not a valid defense. Lahar told the girl. You can release them from the runes now. Lahar told one of the knights. But, the girl was going to continue pleading but was stopped by Jelal. It's okay. I have no intention of resisting. Jelal told her. I never was able to remember you, I am truly sorry. Wendy, Jelal told the blue-haired girl. Wendy's white cat, who was also her partner, stepped forward. Wendy tells me that long ago, she was saved by you. The cat told Jelal. I see, I do not know how much suffering I must have caused all of you. But to hear that I saved someone makes me glad. Jelal told Wendy before turning to Urza. Urza, he began. Urza seemed to be dejected, which surprised Natsu. Thank you for everything. Jelal thanked Urza. I must stop him. Urza thought as Jelal was being taken away by the knights and being put into a carriage. It's for me to stop him. Urza thought, now clenching her fist. Jelal is going away. Jelal, finally awakened from his long nightmare, how can I just let him be shut up in the darkness yet again? Is there nothing left you wish to say? Lahar asked, which was met with silence. It's pretty much guaranteed you'll be executed or be given life without parole. Lahar informed Jelal. But that's, the blonde complained. You'll never see another human face again, Lahar told Jelal. No, Wendy sobbed. I won't let you take him. Urza, though, gaining a serious look. You ain't talkin', him. Natsu's show. Ted, as he did what Urza was going to do by attacking some of the knights as a sign of protesting. Natsu. The shirtless man yelled at his friend, who was doing something idiotic and was going to regret. They're from the council. The blonde gasped while looking at his friend. Tons of guards tried to stop Natsu's assault while Lahar growled at Natsu. Why, you, Lahar snarled. Move it. Natsu shouted at the guards. He's our ally. We're talking him back with us. Natsu-san. Wendy looked on at the unfolding event. Leave me be, Jelal told them, even though he was in shock that they would go this far for them despite the amount of pain he caused them. Restrain them. Lahar ordered as tons of guards charged in. The guards ran directly to the culprit, Natsu. Natsu ran at them too before Gray intercepted them, acting as reinforcements for Natsu. Go Natsu! Gray yelled. Gray! The blue cat shouted. There's no stopping Natsu now, after all. Gray gritted his teeth while fending off the numerous guards. It don't sit right. He helped save you from Nirvana and you don't even get one word of thanks. Gray barked. There is truth to that. It is unjust to arrest a man like that. Jew. Ra agreed as an aura emitted from his body. He covered one of his fists with his other palm. It pains me to say it, but if that man is taken away, Urza-san will be saddened. Ichiya informed everybody as he joined the fight. Don't blame me if anybody gets hurt. Lucy shouted as she and the blue cat made a measly attempt to fend off the guards. Please, don't take Jelal with you. Wendy begged her cat also put in little effort to fend off the guards. Come here, Jelal. Natsu ordered Jelal. Natsu was trying to wriggle his way out of the grip of the guards. You can't leave Urza. Natsu shouted, making Jelal think for a few seconds while gritting his teeth like he was sad. Obito also felt the need to try save Jelal as well, so took on some of the knights, but they were no match for him. In fact, he was easily wiping out all that came his way, even defeating some of the knights other people were facing. This surprised them, they all thought he was a natural at fighting. You've got to stay by her side. For her, Natsu yelled at Jelal. So come here, we stand with you. We're allies, right? Natsu completed his speech while still fighting the guards. Arrest them all. Or obstructing government officials and aiding the escape of a criminal. Lahar demanded, making Obito appear in front of him. You seriously need to shut up. Obito told Lahar while his eyes gleamed, making Lahar quiver. He quickly disposed of Lahar, leaving him on the floor. Enough. That's enough. Urza shouted, stopping everyone from fighting and shocking them. I apologize for the fuss we've caused. Urza apologized to the guards and the hurt Lahar, who managed to stand back up again. I will take full responsibility, Urza announced. Jelal, take him, Urza ordered, making Jelal crack a slight smile. Urza, Natsu argued. Sit down, Urza demanded. Yes ma'am. Natsu did what he was told in an instant, as he was honestly scared of Urza. They then took Jelal away, well, the few remaining guards that weren't knocked out, but then Jelal remembered something as he was about to be taken away. Oh right, it was the color of your hair, Jelal told Urza, making Urza gasp in surprise, although nobody else heard her. Jelal then walked into the prison carriage where he would be locked up in until he reached Era. Farewell Urza, were the last words Jelal said before departing. A few hours later, the mood in the group was pretty down after that incident. Nobody really knew what to say to break the silence. Where is Urza? The blue cat asked after a while. Let's leave her alone for a while, the blonde suggested. Somewhere not too far away. Urza was sitting down on the floor, her head buried in her legs. She was crying her eyes out, but at the same time, trying to not make it obvious. She kept on recalling and relaying the memories she spent with Jelal as a kid in the Tower of Heaven as slaves. She seemed to be regretting everything that had previously happened with Jelal. The sun started to set, signaling the soon beginning of nighttime. The next day in Wendy's guild, Kate's shelter. The group had all traveled back to Wendy's guild as it was the closest place for accommodation. The girls were all trying on dresses and competing over who was cuter. However, Urza was sulking in a corner, still hurt from the events that took place before. Urza, want to try them on? They're cute, the blonde offered, trying to console Urza. Sure, you're right. Urza took up the offer, knocking out of her deep thoughts about Jelal, but it sounded very unconvincing. Speaking of which, Wendy. When did Kate's shelter join the League of Guilds? Sherry, a pink-haired woman who also took part in the fight against Oracion Cease, questioned. I apologize for being blunt, but until this mission began, I had not even heard of your guild's name, Sherry admitted. Now that you say that, neither did I. The blonde, who was named Lucy, admitted as well. Is that so? My guild must really be one of the obscure ones, Wendy nervously told them. Who cares? Everybody is waiting, Wendy's partner and pet, Carla, informed her. They all walked outside where everybody was gathered. Fairy Tale, Blue Pegasus, Lamia Scale, and also Wendy and Carla. You have all done well in defeating Oracion Cease and stopping Nirvana in its tracks. As a representative for the local League of Guilds, I Robal, say job well done. Thank you. Nabula. Thank you. The master of Kate's shelter praised them for their efforts, making some people embarrassed and lighting the mood up. It was our pleasure, Master Robal. Ichia responded, taking center stage and gaining all the attention. The fight with Oracion Cease was one fierce battle after the next. There was not a single easy battle, but the bonds between us allies led us on the path to victory. Ichia finished his speech. You said it, sensei. Hibiki, Ren and Eve, who fought as well, praised their leader. Men. Ichia replied to their praise, trying to act cool by posing. Oh sure. Just take all the good parts for yourself. The once shirtless man, who was named Gray, told Ichia as he was jealous. Men. Ichia responded, posing another strike. Did he even fight anyone? Lucy tried to recall. It's finally over. Sherry sighed as she was relieved. You two did well yourself. Jura praised Leon, a friend of Gray who was a combatant as well, and Sherry. Jura-san, Leon was surprised from such praise from such a strong person. You're supposed to throw a party now, right? Natsu shouted eagerly. Aye sir. His blue cat, Happy, agreed. Ichia will join in, Ichia stated as his group repeated every word he spoke. A party. Gray, who had unconsciously stripped his top part of his body, was looking forward to the party himself. And off go the clothes. Lucy complained, seeing his bare chest, blushing as she was embarrassed. It is a sight she'll never get used to. You too. Lucy turned to Leon, who had the same stripping habits of his friend and fellow student. Now, everyone from Kate's shelter join in. Ichia instructed as the Natsu and his friends as well as Ichia's group took part in some weird dance, but no one from Kate's shelter danced, they just glared at them. They eventually stopped when Ichia stopped, looking like they had done something wrong, as their master seemed to be sad in some sort of way. Everybody looked to the master. Arhu seemed to be holding something back. Everyone, I am truly sorry for hiding our legacy as Nervat. Robal began. You ruined the mood to say that. Happy questioned in a slightly sarcastic but sad remark. We really don't mind at all. Natsu lied as he completely agreed with his partner. Right. Natsu asked his partner, who gave an unconvincing yes as a response. Everyone, please listen carefully to what I am about to say. Robal begged. To start off, we are not the descendants of the Nervats. We are the Nervats themselves. Robal confessed, shocking everyone. 400 years ago, it was I who created Nirvana. What? Leon blurted out. No way. Lucy couldn't believe what she was hearing. 400 years ago. Happy tilted his head in confusion as Natsu was completely bewildered. 400 years ago. In order to stop the war that was raging across the world, I created Nirvana, a magic that inverts light and darkness. Nirvana became our country, and for a time, we realized peace. However, great power will without fail give rise to a great power opposing it. As much as Nirvana changed darkness for light, Nirvana itself became wrapped in darkness. It was to maintain balance. It was impossible to change people's personalities to light without limit. As light rises to oppose the darkness, so does darkness rise to oppose the light without fail. Now that you mention it, Gray recalled as Sherry and Richard's Hotai's personalities switched. The darkness lost from the various people came back on us Nervat. Robal continued his speech. No, Wendy was paralyzed in fear. It was hell. Robal admitted. We killed each other until no one was left. This surprised everybody again. I am the only survivor. Well, at this point, that's not exactly right. My physical body has long perished. I am in what you may call a spectral form now. Or rather a weak ghost trying to atone for his sins of the past. I watched over Nirvana for 400 years until someone appeared who would be able to destroy it. And now, my role is finally over. Robal finished his story. What are you saying? Wendy sobbed with a stammer in her speech. Then one by one, the members of Kate's shelter faded away. What is this? Everyone. Wendy was confused and dejected. She couldn't take everything in all at once like this. All of you. Carla was surprised as well. Magna. Pepple. Wendy shouted as her friend S and guild mates faded away into nothingness. What's going on here? They're all disappearing. Hibiki barked. No. Everyone. I don't want you to disappear. Wendy begged as tears flowed down like a stream from her eyes. This scene reminded Obito of when he saw his crush get killed by Kakashi. He couldn't help but feel her pain. I apologize for deceiving you. All the members of this guild are illusions created by me. Robal informed everybody. Say what? Natsu yelled in shock. Illusions with their own personalities. Leon inquired. What incredible magic power. Juro remarked. I live alone in these ruins protecting Nirvana. 7 years ago, a single boy with blue hair came here. I couldn't turn down the request of that boy and his fierce, honest eyes. Even though I promised myself I would stay alone, for Wendy. I created an illusory family. The guild was created all for Wendy. Lucy gasped. I don't want to hear that. Basque, Naoki, don't you disappear too. Wendy screamed as the last two members disappeared. Wendy, you no longer need a foster family. Robal told Wendy. Don't you have real friends now? Robal pointed at her comrades. Robal then slowly faded away too, leaving her with a smile. Your future has only just begun. Robal told her as he also faded away into nothingness. Master. Wendy tried to run up to her master, but he was already gone. Everyone, truly thank you. I leave Wendy and Carla in your hands. Robal's voice was heard throughout the master. Wendy started crying uncontrollably as her guild mark also disappeared. Carla also shed a few tears as well. Wendy collapsed on her knees onto the stone ground. Master. Wendy shrieked out. She couldn't stop herself from crying. All of her past had just disappeared in a matter of a few minutes. Everybody felt sorry for her until Urza went up behind her and placed her hand on Wendy's shoulder. Bury the pain of losing your loved ones into the arms of your friends. Urza advised Wendy as she had also experienced loss. This stopped Wendy from crying. Come, Urza told Wendy. To fairy tale. We're back. Natsu shouted as he breathed in the air of the guild. Nothing feels better than home. Natsu grinned. Already back are we? A very short old man with gray hair asked. He was the master of the guild. Makarov Drayar. Yeah, it was nothing much. Natsu grinned at the old man who smiled back. Oh, we seem to have new people as well. The old man noticed as Urza brought Obito and Wendy over. This is Obito and Wendy. Urza introduced them. Hello Obito. The old man greeted as he shook Wendy's hand. And hello Wendy. He greeted again, now shaking Obito's hand. Everybody's sweat dropped. Have you ever thought about ever getting glasses, master? Urza inquired. Hey, why would I ever need one? There's no point in asking such useless questions. Oh wait, was it meant to be a joke? Makarov questioned with a smile still on his face. It was meant to be completely serious. Urza told the master coldly. Well then, to answer your question, no, I do not need glasses. The master stated, taking a sip of his beer. Well, for your information, this is Obito and this is Wendy. Urza announced, trying to correct Makarov's mistake. Makarov squinted his eyes and looked closely at the two new members before spitting out all the beer in his mouth on Obito. I do need glasses, Makarov admitted, completely oblivious to the fact that Obito was soaked with a mixture Makarov's saliva and beer. I am completely sore, Makarov began before his eyes met Obito, who seemed to be pissed off. Makarov nervously chuckled and tried to quickly change the subject. Why don't you follow me to my office? I'll give you your guild mark there. Makarov quickly hopped off the countertop and made his way into the office. Wendy and Obito followed behind him and entered his office. It was pretty small and had weekly sorcerer magazines littered everywhere. So what color do you want your guild mark? Makarov asked. May I have one on my right shoulder in light blue? Wendy requested politely as Makarov nodded and got a stamper and placed the mark where she requested it. Now, Obito was it. Where would you like your one? Makarov asked, but he was only met with a glare. His clothes were still visibly wet. I see you still haven't forgotten yet, Makarov chuckled. I'd like the top half in red and the bottom in white. Obito simply ordered. I can't really do it in more than one call. My wishes will be fulfilled, correct? Obito questioned in a scary manner as his Sharingan and Rinnegan gleamed. Why yes, Makarov stammered. It took 5 minutes for Makarov to work out how to do a multicolored guild mark. He finally figured it out and completed what Obito desired. Now, before I can let you go out on jobs, I must test your abilities in order to see which jobs you are allowed to take. As you are the two new members, it would only make sense if you two face off against each other. Makarov explained as Wendy suddenly started to sweat profusely. Wendy doubted her abilities and the everything about Obito seemed menacing. She definitely didn't want to face him. But, Wendy Sue. Elle didn't even form sentences as she was so nervous. Don't worry, I'll go easy on you. Obito smiled at Wendy, placing his hand on top of her head. His attitude had done a full 180. Wendy felt a bit relaxed hearing this. Obito turned his head back to Makarov, but now the smile was gone. This brat is kind of scary, Makarov thought as just a look in Obito's eyes sent a shiver down Makarov's spine. Anyways, your fight will take place tomorrow. Because today we party, Makarov informed them. Wendy was taken by surprise at what Makarov had just declared. Makarov rushed out the room and told the whole guild the same thing while grabbing a barrel of beer. In a matter of seconds, the party in a few seconds was in full swing. Wendy and her partner were too young to drink and didn't appreciate fighting, so they didn't join in. The guild hall was being thrashed with the amount of people getting drunk and getting into fights with fellow members. At some point in the party, a chair got thrown at Uchiha's face and said person decided to take action. He got into a fight with a random guild member and defeated him in a matter of seconds. Just after that happened, the master called for a drinking contest which all the guild members joined in, making an exception for the unconscious members and the underage members. I want a fair drinking contest. Whoever wins gets to own a quarter of Fairy Tail's alcohol. Obviously. If I win, nobody gets the alcohol. Makarov announced. He was already heavily drunk like most of the other members participating and were on the verge of blacking out. Everybody predicted that Fairy Tail's queen of alcohol, Cana, would win, but they had another thing coming if they thought that. Unbeknownst to the guild members, for some weird reason, Obito's mentor, Madara, never had water available, so he was forced to use the many sake bottles found in the building to satisfy his thirst for a drink. Because of this, Obito developed a drinking habit he soon abandoned as it affected his performance in fighting. A few drinks wouldn't hurt. Obito shrugged as he also decided to participate in the contest. From that moment onwards, the Uchiha's world blacked out. In the drinking contest, most of the members were out by 2 barrels. Childhood rivals, Natsu and Gray lasted 5 before they passed out. Wakaba passed out on the 6th while his best friend Mikao lasted 1 longer than him. Elfman lasted 10 before his body became unresponsive. Somehow, Jet and Droy lasted 11, the only reason they got so far was because of their will to impress their joint crush, Levi. The last 3 members was the Master, Cana and Obito. The Master was showing signs of giving up but forcefully resisted against what his body was telling him and pressed on. They were all on their 21st barrel when the Master started coughing violently. Obito and Cana looked at him in worry even though they were both tipsy. "Why you okay?" the shinobi asked in a slurred voice. "Why yeah, I was just Makarov began before he passed out mid-sentence. He started snoring loudly meaning it was a competition between Cana and Obito. "I'm surprised that you've lasted this long newbie." Cana admitted also in a slurred voice. "But you look like you're going to pass out soon." The gorgeous brunette pointed out. "The feeling is mutual, oldie." Obito drunkenly responded with large pauses in his sentences. Both of them were struggling to finish their barrels now. On their 29th barrel of alcohol, Cana gave up and fainted, passing the crown onto Obito. Obito practically celebrated by himself as everybody was unconscious or had left the guild. He decided to finish his barrel before falling unconscious himself. When the former Jinchuriki woke up again, a sudden headache hit him. What the hell happened? He quietly groaned as he tried to stand up. His body was held to the ground as it seemed another person was on top of him. He opened his eyes to see the runner-up of the alcohol contest sleeping on him. The sight of the beauty so close up made Obito blush for a few seconds. He then sighed before picking Cana up and placing her on a nearby bench to rest. He had to make sure not to trip on the various guild members on the ground unconscious. As Obito placed Cana down to rest, she muttered something to Obito. "Fairy Hills." Cana sleep-talked. Or so the Uchiha thought. "Fairy Hills?" Obito asked aloud. "That's where my home is." Cana informed Obito before falling back asleep again. "She didn't even tell me where it is." The male member of Fairy Tail sweat dropped as he placed the attractive mage on his back before walking out of the guild doors. It was the middle of the night and Obito had to navigate his way around a city that he recently arrived in by himself. After around 30 minutes of helpless wandering, he finally stumbled upon his destination and allowed the beauty to enter her apartment. Thank you." Cana thanked Obito sleepily before walking inside her apartment. Now the ninja had to somehow find his way back to the guild. After another 30 minutes, he arrived at the guild. Where most of the members were waking up and leaving. At this moment, Obito remembered he had nowhere to stay. He asked a purple-haired middle-aged man if he had any space in his house and the man, whose name was Mikao, gladly accepted Obito sleeping in his house until Obito had enough money to buy a house of his own. Obito had to sleep on the couch however as the 2 bedrooms upstairs were occupied by him and his son, Romeo. Obito thanked Mikao once again before sleeping on the couch. The next day in a nearby field. "Place your bets here," Cana shouted. Most people placed bets for Obito due to his stature. Hardly anybody placed any bets for Wendy except a few of the perverted older men that resided in the guild. Obito and Wendy were on opposite sides of the long stretch of grass where T's accompanied it on both sides of the field. "That Wendy girl is totally going to get smashed," one of the spectators predicted. "She could be like Urza, an absolute monster. Plus with that cat she has, they could be some sort of unstoppable team." Another spectator voiced his opinion which received a scoff from another spectator. "We are all here gathered today to witness the fight between the new fairy tale mages." Wendy Marvell assisted with her partner, Carla and Obito Uchiha. Makarov announced. "Now, fight." Makarov yelled signaling the start of the fight. Obito's Sharingan and Rinnegan gleamed. If he could somehow manage to deactivate his dojutsu, he would. But something caught Obito's attention when Makarov was doing his short speech before he signaled the start of the match. "Mages," Obito thought. "As in wizards." Obito continued his thought. As a kid, Obito loved fiction books and he read a lot about wizards flying on sticks and using wands, but then that stereotype would cancel out all the people as wizards. And because Obito was now conscious of this, he now noticed that none of these people possessed chakra but had some sort of other source of energy. Similar, in fact, the same to the one he noticed when he was fighting Zero. Flashback start. The world is similar yet different to the world you live in now. Hamura explained. Flashback end. Is that what Hamura meant? Obito pondered before he was knocked out of his thoughts when he saw Wendy flying to him at speed via the use of Carla. Play Fairy Tail OST Ice Edge Exhibition. Wendy tried to punch Obito while being carried by Carla, but Obito dodged flawlessly. She kept attempting various kicks and punches which Obito didn't even get scratched from. But her mood and enthusiasm was different from when she was in the office before. She seemed like she didn't want to give up. Wendy kept trying, but the same process kept happening over and over again. Carla, let's use tactic 2. Wendy advised as Carla nodded and brought her higher into the sky. Don't tell me they were planning for a whole 10 minutes, Obito muttered to himself. Tenryu no Hoko. Roar of the Sky Dragon, Wendy shouted from above his S. He released a light blue tornado from her mouth and shot it at Obito, who was on the ground. Obito kept dodging as Wendy bombarded him with the same move over and over again. Obito was even putting at much effort, but he intended to keep his promise on going easy on Wendy, so he didn't attack her. Suicide attack tactic. Wendy shouted from above as Carla carried her down. They soared down at a great speed. Fast wind that run the heaven, Banya. Vernier, power of the stout arms that tears heaven, Amuzu. Arms, Wendy chanted as she increased both her and Carla's speed and attacking power for a temporary period of time. Makusu Supido. Max speed, Carla also shouted as their speed they were coming down was now incredible, you could hardly see them. However, Obito saw it all with his Sharingan, so their attack would be futile. He simply sidestepped Wendy's punch that was going to land on his face, letting Wendy and Carla crash onto the floor, injuring them. They both struggled to get up after. It looks like Wendy, Marvell and Carla are both unable to fight. The winner is, Makarov began before Wendy shakily rose to her feet. Ostend. I've always been useless, not knowing any offensive magic, but now, that's all changed. I'm no longer a crybaby that gives up easily. I will fight. I will fight until my body drops dead. Wendy declared. Her stunning but yet short speech inspired people and people started cheering for her and Carla. Play Fairy Tail OST main theme metal version. With Wendy's boosted motivation and energy, she charged at Obito trying to engage in hand-to-hand combat, but she couldn't land one hit. Now Carla. Wendy shouted as Obito had dodged backwards doing a flip. Carla caught him mid-air and flew him upwards to an extremely high height. Carla then dropped him from the height which could rival mountains. Obito came down from the sky at a speed that he was not visible. Tenryu no Hoko. Roar of the Sky Dragon. Wendy shouted as Obito was about to be hit by her attack as he was falling directly into it. Obito sighed as his Mangekyo Sharingan formed before attempting to teleport behind Wendy with his Kamui, only to remember he couldn't use that technique anymore. With no time to form any seals, the Uchiha could only bring his hands to his face in an attempt of neutralizing some of the damage from the attack. The attack ended as soon as it came. Wendy was obviously soon to run out of energy. Obito didn't sustain that much damage as the attack itself was pretty weak. The ninja landed behind the tired Wendy and before the Sky Mage could even react. A metal black pole sprouted out from the palm of his hand before pointing it at the back of Wendy's head. Ostend. Checkmate. Obito stated as Wendy was shocked that Obito was behind her. So fast. Wendy muttered to herself. You put up a good fight, Wendy, but you're nowhere near my level. Obito informed her. Carla flew down shortly afterwards and was notified of Wendy's loss by Obito. Indeed, Marvell and Carla have been forced into forfeit. The winner is Obito Uchiha. Makarov announced as he received cheers from the ground. Makarov was in deep thought. I should probably let him face a stronger person. If I recall, he didn't even get hit in that fight. Maybe I should pair him against Urza. He has to be holding more back. He has only showed the use of Shunkanido no Maho teleporta. Tion magic so far in some type of magic that produces metal rods out of his body. I guess I could place him against. Fight me. Natsu yelled, pouncing at Obito, interrupting Makarov from his thoughts. Natsu tried to continuously punch and kick Obito, but Obito saw through all the moves. Obito swept Natsu off his feet, making Natsu land on his back, but Natsu quickly countered by spinning on the floor or on his head and gaining enough momentum before launching himself at Obito upside down. Karyu no Kagizume. Claw of the Fire Dragon. Natsu ignited his feet in flames and tried to kick Obito with it, but Obito caught Natsu's flaming feet bare-handed and threw him onto the floor. Natsu wriggled out of his grip and tried to uppercut Obito, who pretended he got but instead was leaning his head back while creating hand seals. Kaiten. Goka Meshitsu. Fire release. Great fire destruction, Obito shouted as he released a godly flamethrower from his mouth, but as the attack slowly died out, Natsu was seen eating the residual flames. The flames he ate empowered him and boosted his physical abilities. Karyu no Hoko. Roar of the Fire Dragon, Natsu shouted as he released a flamethrower, a bit smaller than Obito's at point-blank range. The flamethrower was about to hit Obito until it only stopped a meter from his face. Obito sighed before the fire then violently shot back towards Natsu, burning him in the process. What the heck? Natsu yelled after the fire died out. Why did my fire just? Obito punched Natsu in the stomach, knocking his breath out, making him collapse onto the floor. Obito then smiled at Natsu. Next time it'll be the nuts if you're not careful. I have a habit of not holding back when facing my opponents. Obito declared with a straight face. Why, you're more scary than Urza, Natsu uttered. Obito cracked a slight smile on his face seeing Natsu cower in fear like this. It amused him to a certain extent. Who's Urza? Obito questioned as Natsu pointed to a redhead in armor. She was Urza Scarlet, famously known as Titania. Obito looked at her before looking at the brunette next to her. She seemed to be wearing a light blue bikini top paired with some jeans. Obito slightly blushed at her beauty unconsciously. Obito shook his head and reverted his attention back to the now finished match. Makarov walked up to Obito and congratulated him. Makarov was going to say something to Obito, but Obito beat him to the chase. Makarov, was it? We need to have a chat. Obito told him, slightly surprising Makarov, but he didn't show this. Makarov took Obito to his office again and they both sat down. So what do you want to talk about? Makarov inquired. This may be hard to believe for you, Obito began. Probably best to not to tell him the exact truth right away. Obito thought. But I've come from a really far away place and I have no idea what magic is. It's unknown to me, Obito informed Makarov. You've never heard of magic. But then what was that move you used in that Shunkanido no Maho? Teleportation magic you used. It surely has to be magic. That's the only energy source around these parts. Makarov stated. Well, where I come from, we use something called chakra for our moves that require hand seals to activate. If you were exceptionally good at controlling chakra, you didn't need the hand seals. Obito told Makarov. Chakra. The name sounds familiar. Makarov declared while scratching his chin. Sounds familiar. I thought Hamura said this was an alternate world. How can this world have a connection with the elemental nations? Obito pondered. Makarov then knocked him out of his thoughts. Well, thanks for clearing that up. I thought it was weird that you could use various types of magic with such ease. I was going to make you an S-class mage, but we have an event coming up soon that will see if you're cut for the job. Makarov hinted, but Obito had no clue what he meant. Anyways, just take normal jobs for the time being so you can get some experience. Makarov told Obito, who nodded. As Obito was about to walk out of the room, Obito remembered he had nowhere to stay. Do you know anywhere I can stay by any chance? I didn't think about the accommodation before I got here. Obito notified Makarov. I'm sure one of the guild members will be happy to take you in until you have enough money to get a place of your own. Makarov told Obito, who smiled. By the way, don't you dare think I forgot that you stained my top. Obito, who was now fake smiling, glared at Makarov for a few seconds before leaving the room. That's one guy you don't want in your bad books for sure. Makarov sighed, shaking his head. Obito walked outside of the master's office only to be met with a chair to the face. My face! Obito shouted in pain. He soon recovered before having an intent to kill in his eyes. Where the heck did that chair come from? Obito shouted before another chair hit his face. Obito was fuming. He attacked the guy nearest to him who was in the brawl. It was a guy with long, spiky black hair. His name was Gajil according to the brawlers. Obito took out his rage on Gajil. Stop throwing chairs at my face. Ought. Otherwise I'll make sure I stick a pole up your ass. Obito yelled at Gajil while repeatedly kicking Gajil who was on the floor. After a few seconds, Obito stopped, trying to catch his breath. Gajil shakily stood up, glaring at Gajil. I didn't throw the fucking chair at your face. Gajil roared at Obito while punching Obito to a nearby table. Everybody cleared the area for Obito and Gajil. Obito got up and eyed down Gajil who did the same. I don't know if you're meant to be hot shit around here, but once I'm done with you, you'll just be normal shit. Obito threatened. I don't know what species you are with your weird ass eyes, but I'll make sure you end up in museum by the end of this fight. Gajil insulted Obito back. They slowly walked over to each other before running to each other. Gajil couldn't land a hit while Obito kept punching and kicking him in the nuts. I thought you had balls of steel challenging me, but you seem to be all talk. Obito shouted as kept kicking and punching Gajil in his private. That's right. I don't have balls of steel. I have balls of iron. Gajil told Obito before blocking one of Obito's attacks with one hand before transforming his Avala BLE hand into an iron pole and smashed it on Obito's balls. Obito collapsed onto the floor clutching his manhood in agony. Obito wasn't invincible after all. Obito yelled at Gajil who was smirking. This smirk was unconvincing since his manhood was also in pain as well. Now I can get two birds with one stone. Natsu laughed, like a maniac, igniting his fists in flame while running behind Gajil. But Gajil elbowed him in the nose and threw him to Obito. Natsu was going to try use Obito as a platform, but Obito activated his Sharingan and simply stepped to the side as he practically saw the Mo. They in slow motion, making Natsu pass right by him and crash onto a nearby table. Natsu struggled to get up as the table was now shattered. Taking some money out of the guild's budget. Why did you move to the side? I needed to get back to Gajil. Natsu shouted at Obito. Well, you were about to collide into me, so I made sure you didn't. Obito explained simply. Well, you're about to collide to my fists because you need to fight me so I can get my revenge. The boy grinned, igniting his fists in flames before swinging a punch at Obito. The attacks continuously brushed past his ears as Natsu continued his barrage of punches and kicks. Natsu quickly got tired, but Obito wasn't even fazed. Cool. The fire mage complimented Obito's abilities. Fight me for real? Natsu energetically asked. Natsu, what have I told you about picking fights? Urza scolded. Natsu pretended he didn't hear her and continued his fight with Obito, who decided to go easy on the fire mage. Obito sidestepped Natsu's punches and spin kicked him, making Natsu stagger a bit, leaving him open for attack. Obito capitalized on this and ran to Natsu, punching him once but sending him to the wall. Obito then made Natsu float to him with his Rinnegan before kicking him to the roof. Obito then rapidly ran up the wall and punched the boy to the floor. All the guild members were in shock that one of their most promising and strongest members was getting dominated so easily. I mean, they knew he was strong from the previous fight he had with Natsu, but he didn't show this much ability. Kaden, Gokaku no Jutsu. E-style. Grand Fireball Technique. Obito formed multiple hand seals before releasing a massive fireball aimed at Natsu while standing upside down on the roof. The members looked in awe while some grinned as the fireball came down. An explosion occurred, disturbing vision between Natsu and Obito. Even the spectators couldn't see. Obito scanned the area with his Sharingan only to be surprised at what he saw. He's eating the flames. I thought it was only a one-time party trick. Obito thought. Natsu was eating the flames that Obito shot at him like it was nothing. Now that I've ate, I'm all fired up. Natsu grinned as giant orange flames emitted from his body. Natsu jumped to Obito, making a small dent in the floorboards from the pressure he put on them before jumping. Karyu no Tekken. Fire Dragon's Iron Fist, Natsu shouted, trying to punch Obito. Obito dodged by back flipping back to the ground. Level, making Natsu destroy one of the poles that held the building up instead. Natsu 2. RNED around like a swimmer in the water and used a pillar as a platform, launching himself at Obito. His body was covered in flames as he directly headed to Obito. Karyu no Kenkaku. Fire Dragon's S. Word horn, Natsu shouted, trying to headbutt Obito in the chest. Obito managed to jump backwards as Natsu was about to hit him, making Natsu self-inflict himself damage. Natsu didn't get up after that. Ow, Natsu mumbled. His voice muffled since his face was practically buried in the ground. The guild members looked in surprise as the familiar, small blue-haired girl that went by the name of Wendy healed Natsu's wounds while life in the guild slowly went back to normal. Obito checked on Natsu. This kid is interesting, he can manipulate such powerful flames at his own will. Not even a Uchiha could handle fire to this extent. Obito thought as Natsu slightly winced from the pain even though Wendy was healing him. That was a good fight, you're definitely strong. You should have just showed me that power when we first fought. Obito complimented Natsu. Natsu smiled at his compliment before the master appeared. He was normally cheery, but depression spread out throughout his face as he walked around at the trashed guild from Natsu's and Obito's fight. What happened? He croaked out. Gramps. Natsu smiled, suddenly getting up midway through Wendy's healing. Natsu, was this you? Makarov asked. Well, me and Weird Eyes here had a fight. And turns out he's really strong. But that's what I was expecting because of our first fight. So I went full out. Natsu smiled at the master. But I lost. Natsu told the master, suddenly getting dejected. You've lost a fight, but I've just lost a few thousand jewels. Makarov mumbled as his soul slowly hovered into the sky. Natsu jumped and grabbed his soul. You nearly lost something, Gramps. Natsu said, thrusting the soul into the master's mouth, making him choke. Natsu slapped his back, saving him from dying. Thanks. Oh crap. Back problems. Makarov shouted, falling on the floor. The guild members laughed. I'm going to enjoy this place. Obito thought, looking around while smiling. But I'm not going to enjoy being called Weird Eyes. Obito's sweat dropped. Obito, explain this nonsense. You've only been in this guild for around half an hour and you've caused nearly the whole building to be destroyed. Makarov scolded Obito. Yes, I'm sorry what I have done to your guild. I'll take full responsibility for my actions. Obito told Makarov. That didn't come out right, Obito thought. Fine. Makarov folded his arms, taking Obito up on his offer. I'll need around 125,000 jewels from you to fix at least half of the roof. Natsu can pay off the rest. Makarov informed Obito, whose sweat dropped. I actually don't have any money. Obito explained. Well, I'll give you a deadline of 2 weeks. If you don't produce enough money by then, you'll be fixing the roof by yourself. Makarov simply told Obito, who was sweating profusely. 125,000. That's humongous. How am I going to make that much money in 2 weeks? Obito thought. You're probably wondering how you're going to make 125,000 jewels in the space of 2 weeks. Makarov guessed like he had just read Obito's mind. You can just take high-paying jobs until you pay up. Obito relaxed and took up Makarov's advice. He headed for the job board in hope for a high-paying job, but there was nothing there. It was hard for him to pick a job as he was normally used to being assigned to jobs by someone else. He looked at the job board, staring intently at all the jobs. The man next to Obito, known as Nab, was also looking for a job. Looking for a job too? Nab asked, still looking at the job board. Yep, Obito responded. Obito then picked a job about a village surrounded by a wyvern. It paid 35,000 jewels. The price is kind of small, but at least it's a start. Obito sighed as he went to the bar to put his job in the record book. Obito then left for job, the Destinate. Ion was only a few hours away by train, but Obito found the trains rather slow, so he decided to run there on foot. At the job destination, once he got to the village, he saw no signs of a wyvern. He didn't even know what a wyvern was, to be honest. The village looked deserted, but he could tell people were hiding inside their houses, trembling with fear because of the wyvern. Obito looked around the village and saw a structure a bit larger than the other buildings, so he decided to check if there was anything in the building. He tried to enter the building, but the door seemed to be locked. All of a sudden he then heard a click of the door and saw someone's eye through the peephole. Are you the fairy tale mage? A man's voice asked. Yes, Obito replied. Multiple other clicks were heard before. The door opened slightly, but enough to let Obito in. Obito came in to see a giant room but pretty empty with a few boxes in some places. I've only got a short time to explain. The man told Obito. E-man was probably the mayor of the village. The wyverns surrounding our village attacks every afternoon, sometimes even nights. We've found its base and we sent our strongest fighters to kill it but they never came back. That was around a month ago. Everybody has been scared since then and every day there has been a sacrifice to the wyvern. The wyvern doesn't leave until it tastes the blood of a human. One by one, the population has slowly declined, leaving only a few people left. My family managed to escape though. The man explained quickly. How? Obito asked. The man didn't answer Obito's question but just started to pace frantically. Obito noticed he seemed to always be near a suitcase that was packed like he was leaving for holiday. Obito got suspicious before he heard a mighty roar coming from outside. He's here. The mayor trembled. Obito walked outside to see a large creature with a green body and green wings. The monster bared its teeth at Obito, the teeth were stained with dry blood. The monster, thinking Obito was the daily sacrifice, stomped over to Obito and tried to eat him. Mokuten, underground roots no jutsu. Wood style, underground roots technique, Obito shouted as he formed the snake seal. Roots of wood then sprouted from the ground and wrapped itself around the wyvern, restraining movement, making the wyvern unable to eat Obito. Obito tightened the grip of the roots that were wrapped around the wyvern, nearly suffocating the wyvern. Kaden, Gokaku no Jutsu. Fire style, grand fireball technique, but instead of the giant fireball Obito used in his battle against Natsu, it came out as a continuous flamethrower, setting the wood surrounding the wyvern ablaze. The wyvern shrieked in agony and desperately tried to escape the pain but was caught in the flames. It was engulfed and turned into more of a cooked meal than a beast. It shrieked out on last cry before collapsing and dying in front of Obito. That was easy. A bit too easy. Something seems very off, Obito thought as he looked at the fried wyvern. The people slowly came out of their houses and cheered Obito. Obito smiled as he was about to make his way back to the mayor, but he then heard various cries from multiple beasts. And what Obito saw surprised and made the village tremble in fear. There was a pack of 5 wyvern. We're all going to die. One of the villagers feared. Even the mage can't handle this. Another one added. Obito was getting bored of fighting the wyverns, so he decided to end it quickly. He pumped a huge amount of chakra to his feet and jumping to the wyvern in the middle. The wyvern quickly opened its mouth and eating Obito. But that's what Obito was hoping for. Mokuten, Sashiki no Jutsu. Wood style, cutting sprigs technique, Obito shouted from in-sea. Did the wyvern as multiple branches of wood suddenly impaled the creature from the inside with the branches sticking out from the outside. This killed the wyvern, and as it was falling from the sky, Obito smashed its teeth to get out before using it as a stepping stone to launch himself at another wyvern. Kaden, Bakufu Ranbu no Jutsu. Fire style, blast wave wild dance technique, Obito got his NDS in the tiger seal before releasing a spiral of flames from his mouth, scalding the wyvern he was flying to. Another wyvern quickly flew to Obito and used its talons to try grab and pierce Obito. Talons seeming passed through Obito as Obito landed on the floor. The 3 remaining wyverns soared down to Obito. Obito grinned at the sight of this. He got his hands yet again in the snake seal position before shouting, Mokuten, Jigoku no Ran no Jutsu. Wood style, revolt of hell technique, as thick roots of wood came from the ground and slammed the wyverns down to the ground, knocking them unconscious. Obito wiped the sweat off his face. The villagers cheered for their savior. That was nothing I couldn't handle. Obito told the villagers, unintentionally sounding cool even though what he said was the truth. He could have finished it one move if he wanted. I wasted more chakra than I needed to. Since my chakra recovery is slower, I better use my attacks more wisely. Obito thought, going back to the building where the mayor was, only to see it was deserted. He frantically searched around for the mayor, but it came to no avail. That bastard mayor, he's gonna get it if I meet him again. Obito thought angrily. He must have used me to escape and meet with his family, Obito assumed. At least I've got a story to tell my grandchildren. That's if I have grandchildren, that is. Obito sighed. He then told the villagers he was leaving. They waved goodbye to him and thanked him for his help. Obito smiled even though he was killing himself on the inside for receiving no pay. Maybe he would be having to fix the roof by himself after all. But that's when an idea popped into his head. He could simply just use the Mokuten wood style for the roof. Obito put his hands in his pocket as he walked back to the guild with his ingenious idea. So you're telling me that you can fix the roof? Makarov asked. I'm pretty sure I can. Obito told Makarov while scratching the back of his head. And you're telling me this just now? Yeah, I only thought of this when I finished my recent job. Obito informed Makarov. And you're expecting a payment for fixing the roof? Makarov asked. Obito nodded. If anything, I should be the one receiving the payment like we originally planned. You still cost me valuable money. If you fix the roof however, I'll take that as your payment, but I am not giving you any money back because you're the one who originally owed me. Makarov stated. Well, looks like you want your roof broken forever then. Obito sighed walking away. Looks like you'll never be having food again. Makarov blackmailed Obito. Obito, who still had no money and nowhere to live, was only temporarily having everything for free. Blackmail. Why does it always get me for some reason? Obito internally complained as he recalled the moment he was forced into partnership with Kabuto. Fine, I'll fix it, but I'll need some tools. Obito told Makarov after he contemplated the pros and cons of fixing the roof. We've got just the person to do that. Makarov smiled. Around 30 minutes later. Why am I here again? The black-haired man that goes by the name of Gajil asked. For your tools. Obito replied simply. My tools? Gajil asked in confusion. Yes, your tools. Hurry up and get them out. I don't have all day. Obito told Gajil, angering him. Telling me to hurry up. Gajil growled. Yes I am. Obito responded, infuriating Gajil even more. Do you wanna fight, bastard? Gajil shouted at Obito. Get to work. Urza shouted, chopping both of them on the back of their heads. Gajil calmed down and started to think rationally. Is it really safe to be doing construction work while people are in the building though? Gajil asked Obito. Quote, that's true, but I trust myself that nobody will be hurt while we fix the roof. But let me clarify so you don't get the wrong idea, I don't trust you, Obito stated. Before Gajil could say anything, Obito was already going to putting his hands in the snake seal before using his Mokuten underground roots no jutsu wood style underground roots technique, making thick roots of wood sprout from the ground. Now, all my work is done. The rest is up to you. Obito told Gajil while walking away to get a lemonade to the bar. Gajil kissed his teeth as Obito got to the bar. May I have a lemonade please? Obito asked. Murajan walked over to Obito while drying a cup with a dry rag. Sorry Obito, master said I can't serve you until you finish rebuilding the roof. Murajan told Obito in a kind tone. Obito's jaw dropped as his soul flew out of his body. No food, Obito thought as his head dropped on the countertop. Obito slowly got up and walked like a zombie over to Gajil. Once he got to Gajil, he tapped on his shoulders, prompting Gajil to turn around. What do you want? Gajil asked in a rude manner. You better hurry this work up, or you're gonna wish you were never born. Obito said, staring into Gajil's eyes. I'll go slower just for you. Gajil said. You really want to do that? Obito said, gaining a serious look full of evil and hatred, his eyes gleaming. He looked like a monster craving for blood. I'll go quicker. Gajil said, genuinely scared, started cutting and shaping the wood into rods and pillars. That's what I thought. I always knew you'd understand. But. Fake smiled, patting Gajil on the back really hard. Another 30 minutes later, Obito was facepalming as he looked at what Gajil had done. Gajil. I know, Gajil said. The measurements are all wrong. Obito told Gajil. I said I know, prick, can't hear. Gajil shouted at Obito. Obito slowly turned his head to Gajil, who was leaking out the same killer intent as before. You know, you're really starting to piss me off. Obito admitted. Same, Gajil roared. You need to stop shouting, otherwise you'll lose your voice. Actually, on second thought, maybe that will be better for you. Obito told Gajil. Shut up, piece of crap, Gajil bellowed, insulting Obito. I thought I told you two to get to work. Urza's voice rang out before Gajil was electrocuted by lightning. Karma is a bitch, isn't it? Obito muttered. Stop slacking, Urza ordered before Obito was also electrocuted. They both said weakly. They repeated the same process again, but Gajeel got the measurements right this time. They thought they were both done until they remembered they somehow had to attach it to the roof. Now, we need to figure out to place it on the roof without it falling. Obito spoke, scratching his chin. More like, how the hell am I going to figure out how to do it since I've did most of the work here? Gajeel said, folding his arms. Please shut up, Obito asked in an evil manner. Gajeel shut himself up. A look of realization adorned on the shinobi's face. We need glue, Obito announced. Was that your idea? Anybody could work that out. Gajeel sighed. It sounded better in my head. Obito muttered, dejected. Gajeel hit Obito around the head. What the hell was that for? Obito asked. You said it would be better if I was dead. Gajeel said, mishearing Obito. Well, that's also true, Obito told Gajeel. Gajeel broke his breaking point first and tried to strangle Obito. Obito dodged his hands and uppercutted Gajeel, but Gajeel with his high durability took the punch with that much damage before transforming his hand into club and punched Obito in the stomach with it, knocking the wind out of him. The guild looked to see their fight before their everybody started weeding profusely and started praying for Gajeel and Obito. You seem to enjoy fighting more than Gray and Natsu. You also seem to like disobeying my orders. Face divine judgment, Urza, said Requip, ing into her, Urumadura Firi no Yoroi, Armadura fairy armor, as she pumped energy into her fairy sword. Gajeel was the one who was going to be struck first. He braced himself for impact, but the pain was nothing he expected. Gajeel couldn't stand up again before Urza looked over to Obito. Urza pumped even more energy into her sword before trying to slash Obito. Obito managed to dodge each slash, which pissed Urza off. Come here, you little brat, Urza shouted. Obito barely skimmed some of the slices. As Urza thought she had caught him off guard, he quickly sidestepped, cutting strands of his hair. Obito sighed as he dodged Urza's attack. Obito then ran out of the guild with Urza in hot pursuit. While Obito tried to escape Urza, he looked around in shops for glue, but nobody seemed to sell it. In one shop, Obito spent too long looking, meaning Urza managed to catch him in a headlock. But her hands slipped through him. I seriously don't have time for this, Obito mumbled while running away again. But that's when Obito had another idea. He quickly ran back to the guild with Urza still trailing him. Once he got to the guild again, Makarov was waiting for him. He too had become angry after hearing the news of Obito, who ran away. Urza then burst through the guild doors to see Makarov and Obito and the rest of the guild looking on. Okay, let's all calm down here, Obito said nervously. I've got an idea, Obito informed Makarov and Urza while sweating profusely. He then went to the nicely cut pieces of wood and looked at them for a few seconds. Very slowly, they started to levitate. Obito was using his Rinnegan to do this. This was hard for Obito to do because he was lifting pieces of wood simultaneously, but Obito didn't show this through his actions as he slowly put the wood in the right places. But they still had no glue, but that is where Obito's plan step 2 came into action. He used the Mokudan wood style to add a few spikes on the end of the wood bars and pillars to stick into the wall. The went in perfectly and Obito had just managed to fix the roof. Finally, I put in more effort than was needed, Obito admitted. Great work, Makarov said walking away. Master, my pay, Obito demanded. Makarov continued to walk away, now laughing. But Makarov had other thing on his mind than laughing at Obito. That kid, what the heck is he? According to the spectators of the fight between him and Natsu, they said he used around 3 different elements. Some type of gravity ability that allowed him to hang upside down and run on walls, the one I saw earlier, the fire power, and some type of ghost power. But now he's shown the ability to use wood and another variation of that gravity power. How limitless is this so-called chakra? I've got to keep a close eye on him, Makarov thought. The guild looked at him like he was some type of god, which by the looks of it, was very likely. Obito decided to go on a job so he could pay for his own luxuries and so he wouldn't have to do things like this again and not be allowed food. Before Obito took the job, he ordered the lemonade he was not allowed to have. He then approached the job board and surveyed the job pinned onto the board. Barely any paid good money and probably had no action involved. Obito sighed before deciding to make light conversation with Natsu, who seemed to be engaged in a chat with Wendy and Gray. They were all speaking around the bar. Obito tilted his head in confusion why Wendy was at the bar in the first place. Isn't she underage? Obito wondered. As Obito got there, Natsu suddenly rang out of his seat with eyes of determination but surprise at the same time. Wendy had the same look before they both rushed out the guild with their exceeds. Hey Gray, what was that about? Obito inquired. Some person seems to have spotted a dragon. Natsu, Wendy and me are all dragon slayers looking for our foster parents, which were the dragons. They're going to find the woman who claimed to have spotted it, but it all sounds like a sham to me. Gajeel explained, beating Gray to the punch. Gray seemed to have a guilty look in his face. Gray, Obito began. I can see right through you. What's this really about? Obito interrogated. Gray avoided eye contact with Obito. This is something only Natsu can do. Gray simply replied before walking away. Gray-sama? Juvia asked, worried as Gray walked past her. Gray headed straight for the door and walked out without even saying a goodbye. Interesting, Obito noted in his head while smirking. I'll be back, guys. Obito told Gajeel and F-Man Quasi, who had recently arrived back from a job, while proceeding to get a drink. Obito's 3 Tomo Sharingan slowly formed into the familiar Mangekyu pattern. Obito's body then disappeared in a puff of smoke via the Shunshin no Jutsu body flicker technique. In the streets of Magnolia. I normally don't feel sorry for anyone, but I do feel sorry for Gray. He's about to get his ass handed to him. Gajeel thought while munching on some iron. Obito could really ruin this. He seriously needs to mind his own business, Gray thought with his hands in his pocket. The information that Gray told the Dragon Slayers was false. The woman that saw the dragon was in fact his partner, Daphne. Gray was heading over to their base located in an inn just outside of the city. Gray felt a presence lurking behind him and walked a bit faster while tensing up. He still felt the presence behind him and swiftly turned around, but he saw nothing. I must be imagining things, I'm getting worked up for nothing. Gray continued walking like nothing happened, relaxing again. Gray reached the station in a few minutes and boarded the train that was next to depart. It was a rather tense train ride as he kept relaying the outcome of this in his head. A few hours had passed and the train was approaching Gray's destination. He had stopped repeating the same thing in his mind now and was looking out of the window, extremely bored. As the train slowly came to a halt at the station, Gray felt a familiar presence and turned around swiftly, but he saw nothing yet again. Weird, he thought as he got out of the train. Nobody else got out with him. It seemed like a pretty secluded, and the station was an open platform that connected to the vast desert. Even for me, an ice mage, this is pretty hot. Graw. Y commented on the heat from the fully exposed sun. Gray walked in the empty desert for quite a while before he came across an oddly placed inn. It was a large infrastructure that had a main building that was accompanied by 2 smaller buildings on each side. It had nice front garden, making it seem out of place in the desert. The sign above the door read, Rise. That was the name of inn that the woman who claimed to have supposedly seen a dragon. Gray walked in from the main front door and entered the building. Gray walked through long stairs and long gloomy hallways before he came across a large set of doors that were different from all the rest. Gray knocked on the door firmly, which could be clearly be heard resounding from the inside of the room. The door slightly opened inwardly as a woman slowly peeked her head out. Gray, my lovely, the woman began before she was interrupted. Yeah, we got people coming our way, the dragon slayers you requested. Except one of them, Gray informed the woman. Well done, Gray. Except, I wanted all 3 of them. The woman pouted. You can't always get what you want, Daphne. Gray sighed. The woman named Daphne took offense from his remark but didn't say anything. Well, it seems like one of them is already here anyways. Daphne pointed out. How? I gave them very vague information, so there's no way they could find it in time. Gray thought in shock. Daphne, there must be some mistake. Gray told her. No, my radar doesn't lie. Daphne reassured him. Gray gritted his teeth and looked around his surroundings in panic. Where are you? You've been following me all along. Come out and let me kick your ass. Gray yelled into the empty hallway, but nothing appeared. Gray turned his head around to Daphne only to see that she wasn't at the door anymore. Gray walked into the large room only to see Daphne struggling for breath in the middle of the room. There was an arm wrapped around her neck choking her. "Hello Gray, what a pleasant surprise. Mind to tell me what's going on?" Obito fake smiled as he tightened his sleeper hold grip on Daphne. "Gray, help me," Daphne managed to cough out. Gray looked at the unfolding situation. Stuck in the same position not knowing what to do. "Obito, what are you doing here?" Gray interrogated. "I should be asking the same thing." Obito replied. "Get out of here if you have no business here. And if you don't, I'll stick an icicle in your ass." Gray threatened unconvincingly as he also sweat dropped. Stick an icicle in his ass. I doubt I could even do that without getting pummeled, plus I'm sure the icicle will be brown and not blue afterwards. Gray slowly put his hands in the signature ice make position, but before he could even create some ice, Obito had already ran P to him and punched him in the face all the way to the door, his back colliding with it and the force of impact, closing the door. This fight is going to be annoying, Gray thought. Play Naruto OST Amaterasu. Gray shakily stood up as he ran at Obito, clenching his smiled at this as he let Gray run at him. Obito easily dodged his moves with ease. Punch after punch, kick after kick, Gray's efforts would come to no avail. Obito slowly started putting it in swift kicks and punches to the gut, nose and shin. Gray had now stripped, but this would lead to his own downfall. This would make him more exposed to Obito's attacks. Gray tried to execute a sloppy hook, meaning Obito could easily duck and go for a hook of his own. Obito's hook was fast and left no openings. It was also strong and knocked Gray to the ground. Gray fell on the floor, but as he landed on the floor, he spun on the floor and tried to sweep Obito's leg, but Obito simply jumped and avoided the sweep. "Shit, I can't land, crap. He's forcing me to use hand-to-hand combat, which I'm not that good at." Gray thought in his head. "But if I can't use my magic, I'll just have to stick by his rules and outplay him in his own game." Gray finished his thought before charging at Obito again. Gray jumped high into the air, trying to come down at Obito with a flying punch, but Obito extended his leg, making Gray's stomach meet with Obito's foot, knocking the breath out of the ice mage. Gray crumpled to the floor, clutching his stomach and wincing in pain. "Now Gray, as I asked before, what are you doing here?" Obito asked slowly, walking to Gray. "Fine, I'll tell you the truth," Gray began, but took his time with the explanation. "Now," Gray shouted, "have a blast from my dragon cannon." Daphne shouted, as she shot a sphere of yellow energy at Obito from behind. The blast had seemed to have hit Obito, creating an explosion, making Daphne cackle like a maniac. Yes, you have now been erad." She abruptly stopped mid-sentence as Obito's figure appeared in the smoke. The smoke cleared, revealing an unscathed Obito. "How?" Daphne feared as she gradually took steps backwards. "Such a slow attack couldn't possibly catch me." "Obit." Informed Daphne as he moved like a shadow and appeared behind the dragon-crazed inventor. He landed a high kick on Daphne's face, which made her stumble to the side before sweeping her off the floor with a kick. Her head was the first part of her body to hit the floor, and the floor was nowhere near soft. Her head made a rather loud thump on the floor as she was knocked unconscious by the fork of her head hitting the floor unprotected. Ost end. Isu Maiku, Superfurizu arrow. Ice make. Super freeze arrow was all Obito heard when something sharp seemed to have pierced through his stomach. Pain instantly shot throughout his body and making him cough out blood. Obito began to feel numb, his legs wobbling and hardly managing to keep him standing upright. Obito slowly tilted his head and saw Gray, who seemed to be somewhat surprised as well. "What have I just done? It wasn't meant to turn out like this, but, I couldn't do anything else, otherwise he'd ruin everything I planned out." Gray thought as he panicked. "But I'd be expelled for killing a member of my own guild, right? Please let him not die. I didn't even intend for it to hit him in a vital spot. I'm sure it isn't a vital spot anyway. I'm just stressing myself for no reason. Right, shit, I better get out of here. I wouldn't only be expelled thinking about it. I'd be imprisoned. I can't let my life go to waste. I've got to get out of here." Gray stressed. Obito gradually walked over to Gray, dry blood stained on his chin that had dripped down from his mouth, while the fresh blood coming from the hole in Obito's stomach. Thump, thump, thump. Obito came closer and closer to Gray, who was paralyzed in fear that Obito could still move with a giant arrow in his stomach. "What are you?" Gray shouted in terror as he unconsciously took steps back. Thump, thump, thump. Obito didn't stop walking to Gray. He was like a ghost ready to feast on the souls of humans. "Get away! Get away from me, you monster!" Gray urged Obito in fright, but Obito paid no heed to his command. Thump, thump, thump. Obito started closing in on Gray, who was slowly backing into a wall. Isu Maiku, Ransu, Ice Make, Lance, a light BL. UE magic seal appeared on Gray's palm as he shot multiple lances made out of ice at Obito, but the lances were expertly evaded by the Sharingan wielder. The arrow stuck in Obito's body was still firmly in place in Obito's body as he maneuvered his way out of danger. "Just what are you?" Gray asked in fright as he had now backed into a wall and couldn't move backwards anymore. Thump, thump, thump. Obito walked with his hands swaying from side to side with each step, leaning like how a zombie would. Gray was now trapped as Obito's tall figure had now blocked the light that was shining in the room onto Gray. Thump, thump, thump. Obito was now face to face with Gray. "What am I, you ask?" Obito began as he slowly pulled the arrow out of his abdomen. "Your worst nightmare." The shinobi smirked, before pumping chakra into his arm and punching Gray directly in the forehead, making him bleed. Obito stood back as Gray staggered a bit before crumpling to the floor. The wound that Gray had inflicted upon Obito now had steam emitting from it. The wound was rapidly healing, and once it had finished, there was no signs of any injury on Obito except the dry blood that had trickled down from his mouth and his torn shirt, which was also stained with blood. "I've got to admit, I was scared for a moment that this wound wasn't going to heal because it was taking longer than usual. But in the end, it was just as I expected," Obito confessed. "You put up a very good fight, Gray. I definitely wasn't expecting that arrow. I could feel my insides freezing up from the cold temperature of the ice." "Obit," complimented Gray before attaining a serious look. "Well, that's enough of that. Now Gray, let's pick up where we left before. What are you doing here?" Obito interrogated Gray, who was still on the floor, holding his head in pain. "If I told you, all of this would be a waste of time," Gray told Obito. "Fine, I'll have to extract the information out of you forcefully then," Obito stated. "And how are you going to do that?" Gray asked with a smirk, building up some of his confidence again. Gray looked up to see Obito's eyes practically glowing. Obito then tried to cast Genjutsu on Gray, but it had no effect on Gray. "What? Why is it not working?" Obito pondered with an alarmed look on his face. "Hey, it was only a bluff after all." Gray grinned like predicted the previous events while rising back to his feet. "Obito, get ready because I'm going all out," Gray informed Obito as he released his magic power, partially freezing the surrounding area. "That's mean, I'll do that as well, but you're going to regret it," Obito told Gray. "I doubt that," Gray responded. "Come." Obito gestured with one of his fingers. Gray ran at Obito as ice covered both of Gray's arm, increasing his destructive power. Gray was going to punch Obito, but Obito countered so fast that it was invisible to a normal eye. Gray was on the floor clutching his now broken nose. Obito glared straight at Gray as Gray was still in pain. "Gray, tell me what you're doing here, otherwise I'll make sure your ice won't be the only thing that is destroyed," Obito threatened. Gray had no choice but to give in. There was no chance of him making a comeback from this position. Gray made a small ice cube to soothe the pain on his nose before beginning to explain everything to Obito. "It all started a few years back when me and Natsu were kids," Gray began. Flashback start. A young Natsu, who had recently lost his foster father, Igneal, was desperately trying to find him, looking for any clues on where he might be. Natsu had come across a hill that had hatched eggs on the peak of the mountain. They were rather large, so Natsu assumed they were dragon eggs. Natsu then heard the voice of what sounded like a beast, which he took for Igneal's voice. "Igneal, is that you?" Natsu asked as he followed the sound to its point of origin. The voice came from a nearby city that was below the mountain. "Wait for me. Answer me," Natsu yelled in desperation. "Igneal." Natsu ran to the town as fast as he could, but when he reached the town, Igneal was nowhere to be found, depressing the young Natsu. The city seemed to have no resistance, and all that was heard throughout the city was the gust of the wind. It was sunset and Natsu decided to head back to the guild before it got too dark. As he was leaving the town, a voice stopped him in his tracks. Natsu turned around to see nobody and dismissed the voice. "Young man." The voice spoke again, making Natsu turn around. "Huh, the pot is talking," Natsu questioned as he went up to a nearby empty vase. "We are the people who live in this city," the voice told Natsu, making Natsu turn his whole body left. "How do you do?" the voice asked as Natsu was still processing this all in. A shadow was talking to him. "How is that even possible? You're just a shadow," Natsu blurted out in shock. No, because of a magic called hidden, you can't see our bodies anymore," the shadow explained. "Huh, I don't get it. You can just undo the magic, right?" Natsu told the shadow. "We called out to you because we can't do that," the shadow informed Natsu. "By the way, who are you?" the shadow asked Natsu. "Me. I'm a fairy tale wizard. I'm the dragon slayer, Natsu." Natsu introduced himself proudly. "What? A dragon slayer? Seriously?" the shadow asked in shock. "I ain't gonna lie. And you don't have to be that surprised," Natsu stated, folding his arms. Natsu, the dragon slayer. Please rid us of this magic curse," the shadow begged. "Sure, I guess." Natsu accepted. "What should I do? Like destroy the wall?" Natsu asked. "No. You must defeat the one who controls dragons," the shadow told Natsu. "Huh, what are you blabbing about? No one can control a dragon. Are you nuts?" Natsu told the shadow. "But if there's someone like that, I'll beat him," Natsu declared. "Will you promise?" the shadow asked. "Yeah, it's a promise." Natsu grinned while promising to fill the shadow's desire. "Then, we'll wait. We will place our hopes with you. We will always be waiting," the shadow told Natsu as both of their shadows grew taller. For a short time, other shadows were spotted next to the shadow that was talking to Natsu before nighttime suddenly hit and everybody's shadows disappeared. "Huh, hey," Natsu shouted as his conversation was abruptly cut off. "Where'd you go?" Natsu questioned but received no responses. Natsu decided to head back to the guild after that. Flashback end. And that's basically what happened. It's all a setup so Natsu can fulfill his promise he made to the residents of that town. Gray finished explaining. "So that is why you're doing this?" Obito questioned. "Yeah," Gray replied in one word. "You should have told me that at the beginning." Obito chuckled. "I thought you were serious on killing Natsu, so that's why I didn't go easy on you," Obito informed Gray. What? So you're saying I could have avoided a broken nose?" Gray yelled. "Pretty much," Obito responded as Gray cursed under his breath. "Well, if that's the case, I better go and make sure I don't interfere with your plans," Obito told Gray while making his way for the exit. "You already interrupted my plans anyway, you half wit," Gray insulted Obito, making Obito look at Gray in a scary way. "What was that?" Obito asked. Nothing, Obito-sama," Gray stammered as he trembled. He had probably already pissed himself by now. "That's what I thought." Obito continued making his way for the exit. Obito decided it would be easier to teleport out of here than take the long stairs. The familiar warp hole appeared in front of Obito. "Wait, you're just going to leave me here with a broken nose?" Gray barked. "Yes, I am just going to leave you here with a broken nose," Obito word back while grinning and disappearing into the warp hole, leaving Gray and her unconscious partner, Daphne, to their own devices. Obito arrived back at the guild. Most members looked at the stained blood on his torn shirt and worried for him. "What happened?" Elfman asked, running up to Obito. "It's all a setup," Obito answered back. "What's a setup?" Elfman questioned. "Gray, the dragons, it's all a setup," Obito explained in a more understandable way. "I told you," Gajiel told Obito while chewing on some pieces of scrap metal. "Looks like you took a heavy beating. I'm surprised you even beat Wendy," Gajiel remarked, insulting Obito in the process. "I don't have time for crap like this," Obito muttered under his breath while walking off. Gajiel had an arrogant smug on his face, thinking he had won the battle of insults. "By the way, you may want to tend to Gray's wounds once he comes back. I broke his nose as a present in the battle," Obito informed the guild as Obito's words sent shivers down some people's spines. Even Gajiel started to sweat a bit. Obito was really bored. He really had nothing to do, and the battle with Gray didn't exactly give him entertainment. "Is there really?" Nobody in this world that can give me a run for my money. Hamura may as well bring me back since I've got nothing to do here. Obito thought as he examined the job board. Tutoring children, not really my thing. Sparring fight with mage with no magic. What type of request is that? Obtain treasure, eternal sin. Threat level, 100-year job. Obito thought, commenting on the jobs he saw in his mind. His interest was caught on a treasure job. If the threat level is so high, why is it labeled as a normal job? Obito pondered. Oh well, maybe something or somebody can finally pose a challenge to me. Obito grinned as he took the job off the board. He confirmed it with Miragen before leaving to the job destination that was located around the outskirts of Magnolia. As Obito walked to the train station, he couldn't help but get excited for the mission, but at the same time, he had a really bad feeling about it. Obito watched as the bustling city was enjoying everyday life. I wonder how Natsu and Wendy are doing. Obito pondered as he looked up to the cloud-free sky. In the inn where Daphne and Gray operated, Gray and Natsu were staring each other off as magic slowly emitted off from their bodies. Gray-san, Wendy questioned, wondering why Gray was preparing to attack Natsu. What's wrong with you, Gray? Happy asked. Stand back, Wendy. Natsu advised the girl. He's being serious. Natsu told her as Gray gained a smug look on his face. Gray, what's wrong? Do you have a stomachache? Happy inquired as he worried what was wrong with Gray. That's obviously not the problem. Carla lashed out at Happy at his stupidity. Gray-san, Wendy repeated as Gray got his hands in his signature ice make position. Play Fairy Tale OST Ice Boy. Actually, I don't have a stomachache, but I do have a broken nose. Isu Maiku, Ransu, Ice Make. Lance, Gray yelled as a light blue magic seal appeared as multiple sharp ice lances were shot out, trying to pierce Natsu. Natsu dodged them all pertly as Gray took off his shirt and threw it away. This is the real Gray. Happy commented on the familiar stripping habit of Gray. Natsu growled at Gray as the match was about to get serious from here on out. Damn it, Gray. What has gotten over you? Natsu wondered. But if you want to do it like this, I won't be afraid to stop you. Natsu finished his thoughts and lunged at Gray. Gray, Nat. Su roared angrily as he ignited his fists in flame. Gray only grinned at the sight of this. Natsu, let me teach you the difference. The Po. Gray began before Natsu punched him all the way to the other side of the room. You bastard, Gray muttered, wiping his mouth. Natsu was already charging at Gray with flames erupting from all parts of his body. Isu Maiku, Batoru Akusu. Ice Make. Battle Axe. Gray molded an axe made out of ice in the blink of an eye and unleashed it at Natsu, who was knocked backwards onto the floor. Natsu got up in a matter of seconds, but Gray had already prepared another attack. Hyojin, Nanaranbu. Ice Blade. 7-slice dance. Gray ran to Natsu, who had just got up, while ice formed on Gray's hand in the shape of a sword spear. Gray striking Natsu on his chest in a circular motion. For most of the attack Natsu couldn't defend, but flames suddenly erupted from Natsu's body and bathed him in flames. The flames melted the ice placed on Gray's hands, leaving Gray vulnerable as attack was stopped mid-sequence. Karyu no Tekken. Iron Fist of the Fire Dragon. Natsu's flames gathered a large amount of fire on it before he extended his fist to punch Gray. Natsu Ko. Nnected his fist right onto Gray's nose, making Gray groggily stagger backwards. Gray cursed under his breath from the pain of his broken nose before executing another move. Isu Maiku. Nakuru. I-C. E-Make. Knuckle. A magic seal appeared on the floor beneath Natsu before multiple large ice knuckles sprouted from the ground and punched Natsu to the roof. Natsu rebounded off, creating an indent on it, soaring over towards Gray. Isu Maiku. Shirudo. Ice Make. Shield. Gray made a large shield made out of ice in preparation to block Natsu's oncoming attack. Flames engulfed Natsu's body as he crashed into the shield head first. There's no point, if anything you'll just cause brain damage. A crack appeared in the shield as Gray was boasting. Gray was surprised by this, and only a few seconds later, the shield broke, but the shield had completely stopped Natsu's forward momentum. Gravity took effect and Natsu fell to the ground. Natsu sprang up trying to uppercut Gray, but Gray molded 1H. Alpha of a shield on each of his hands and placed his hand next to each other, creating a full shield. This blocked Natsu's uppercut. Gray then swung a hook at Natsu's face, but Natsu sidestepped only to fall to the ground because of Gray, who was thinking a step ahead and froze the ground. End Ost. Goodbye Natsu, Gray smiled evilly as an ice sword appeared in Gray's hands. Gray gripped onto the sword tightly before trying to stab Natsu in the chest. Natsu used the icy terrain to his advantage and spun on the ground, tripping Gray up in the process. Natsu panted heavily as he looked at Gray, who was doing the same while on the floor. Fairy Tail OST Fire Dragon vs Flame God. Gray shakily stood up before running to Natsu and trying to punch him, but Natsu jumped backwards to dodge his punch. Quote, Isu Maiku. Isu Kyanan, Ice Make. Ice Cannon, Gray yelled as a long cannon of ice formed in his hands. The cannon then shot out a large and destructive cannonball composed of ice was shot at Natsu. Karyu no Hoko. Roar of the fire dragon, Natsu screamed as he released a massive flamethrower from his mouth, annihilating all in its path including the cannonball and Gray, who had no time to dodge. Gray was burnt from the attack and fell on the floor, back first. End Ost. Gray, how could you? Natsu began with anger in his voice while walking over to Gray. Once he finally reached Gray, his eyes turned into those filled with hatred. How could you betray not only me, but the whole guild? Natsu yelled. Idiot, was all Gray said. Natsu was going to bend down and punch Gray only to find out his legs were frozen by Gray. What the hell? Natsu thought aloud, trying to wriggle himself out of the ice that locked him in place. Yes, that's the way, Gray Fullbuster. A woman spoke behind Natsu. Her circular glasses were the only thing that could be seen as lightly slowly shone on the figure. It was none other than Daphne, who seemed to have woken up from being unconscious. I can finally achieve my goals. Daphne looked at Natsu while chowing down on her homemade product with a smug look on her face. Natsu's heart skipped a beat. Who is she? Natsu thought in fear. Meanwhile, in a forest in the outskirts of Magnolia. The item should be somewhere around here according to the map provided with the job request. Obito noted as he looked at his map for a few seconds before inspecting his surroundings. Whatever this item is, it must hold some value. They even gave me gloves so I won't be affected by it. Obito said, looking at the black gloves he was wearing. Obito walked in the forest but couldn't find the destination of the item. It says it should be somewhere around here, Obito uttered out, still looking for any odd-looking places. Obito stumbled upon a moderate-size building that was not as big as the Fairy Tail Guild but could still accommodate many people. The building was in bad condition with gaping holes all around the structure, paired with broken windows and bent planks that the structure had been built with. Obito stared at the building for a few seconds before entering it out of curiosity. All he saw was a food hall that had tables and movable chairs, but except for those two pieces of furniture, it was pretty much empty. There wasn't anybody in there except for the bartender, who was drinking beer all by himself. Obito decided to make the time he spent here worthwhile. Hey, Obito began walking over to the bartender. Do you know where I can find the item, Eternal Essence? Obito asked the bartender. That's all people come to this guild for these days. Nobody ever comes to join the guild anymore. I'm guessing you have the job from the Archaeological Society. They've been pursuing the treasure for ages and it's been my duty to protect it. The bartender explained, finishing his beer bottle. Well, I need to complete this job so I can get money, so if you could kindly hand it. Slam. The bartender slammed his hand on the table, taking Obito aback. Why is that nobody ever learns? It's my duty to protect the treasure, so just go already because you're not getting it. I'll mercilessly kill you if you don't leave now. The bartender threatened. I'll mercilessly kill you if you don't give me the item. Obito said, darkly matching the bartender's threat. In the name of our guild, Crepitus, I forbid you from taking the lacrima. The bartender stated. And in the name of the Uchiha Claw Fairy Tail, I will take it. Obito announced, slightly messing up his sentence. Obito and the bartender stared each other down. I, Axel, shall defeat you. The bartender shouted as a large axe teleported into his hands. Axel was it. I'll make sure you'll hand what I want over to me by the end of this battle. Obito declared as an iron pole slid out of the palm of his hands. Play Fairy Tail OST Black Wizard's Wicked Heart. Obito slowly slid his feet, but Axel was quick off his feet and slid over the countertop of the bar and rushed at Obito. Obito couldn't even react as flames flew off the axe that Axel swung at Obito. The flames burnt Obito, but Obito stayed firmly on his feet. Obito used his immense speed to his advantage and rushed over to Axel. With one giant swing into the air, Obito was suddenly pushed back to the wall. Obito coughed out blood upon crashing into the wall. It seems he can manipulate wind and fire with his axe. Obito thought as Axel was already running towards Obito. Obito slowly stood up as his pole retracted back into his hand. Obito made hand seals that were unseeable to a normal eye. Kaiten, Gokaku no Jutsu. Fire style. Grand fireball technique. Obito yelled as a scorching hot fireball shot out from his mouth. Axel didn't even move an inch and allowed the fireball to reach him. As the fireball was around an inch away from him, Axel swiftly held his axe in a defensive diagonal angle. The fire collided with the axe and to Obito's surprise, the axe held out against his fire. Obito noticed there, was actually water coated onto the axe. Obito gritted his teeth at the axe's constant change in nature. As the fire dissipated, Obito was nowhere to be seen. Axel frantically surveyed the room but saw nobody. Or so he thought. He wasn't expecting Obito to reappear on the ceiling. Obito jumped down from the ceiling and pulled back his right hand in preparation to punch Axel. Obito punched Axel directly in the cheek, knocking him down to the ground. Axel's axe changed nature once again as Axel scrambled away and distanced himself from Obito. Axel then swung his axe at the ground, smashing the floorboards in the process. A ripple then raced towards Obito. Once the ripple reached Obito, a rock knuckle tried to punch Obito but Obito backflipped out of the way. It seems you're pretty fast, but as the saying goes, you can run, but you can't hide, Axel told Obito before rushing towards Obito once again. What does he mean by that? Obito pondered. Obito was put in shock when he saw Axel right in front of him, preparing to attack with his axe. Obito jumped in the air to avoid the attack, but this is what Axel wanted. Axel then swung his axe aimlessly while still on the ground. For a few seconds, Obito wondered why he did that until multiple wind needles cut Obito's skin. Obito closed his eyes while blocking, not wanting his eyes to be hurt as well. Obito now couldn't see what Axel was preparing. The last thing Obito heard was the distinct sound of lightning before electricity shot throughout his body. Obito screamed in agony before falling to the floor. End Ost. Steam emitted Fr. Obito's burnt body as Axel slowly approached him. This is really disappointing, I was expecting much more. Axel admitted looking at Obito's grounded body. There's no way in 100 years that you could get the lacrima from me. That's why the job you've accepted is a 100-year quest. Axel told Obito. 100-year quest. Obito questioned, even though Obito saw it on the request paper, he didn't know what it meant. Wait, you didn't know? Axel asked, genuinely surprised. May as well explain before I send you to the afterlife. Axel sighed. Some jobs are more dangerous than other jobs, so we label them. The easiest job can be completed by anyone. They don't really have a name. Then you got the S-class jobs that can only be completed by S-class mages, and then you got the SS-class jobs, they can only be completed by the most experienced S-class mages. And then you've got the two godly levels. The 10-year jobs and the 100-year jobs. The 10-year job means the job has been available for veered 10 years but has yet to be completed. I'm sure you can guess what the 100-year job means. Axel explained. Does that mean this job has been available for over 100 years? Obito asked. Not really. It just shows how dangerous this job is. Most of the time, we send the body parts of the opponent back to the guild. The Magic Council hasn't traced us yet, so we haven't been arrested for it yet. Axel told Obito. Well then, time to send your body parts back as well. Axel informed Obito while gripping his axe. Axel then swung his axe over his head, preparing to chop off Obito's head. Obito grew TTED his teeth as time seemed to speed up for him. The axe was approaching him at a light speed. Obito thought this was the end. His mind was blank, but that's when he felt his body healing itself. I'll never get used to this slow healing time. Obito chuckled inside his mind. Obito could feel the blade of the axe touch the hairs on his neck. The axe was suddenly repulsed and was embedded into a wall. What the hell? Axel muttered as he looked towards his axe. You don't have time to be looking away, you know. Obito notified Axel as he was now face to face with him. Play Fairy Tail 3 Dragon Slayers. Obito punched Axel backwards. Axel stayed on his feet but Obito had already slipped behind him. A pole slid out of Obito's palm as he lunged towards Axel. Obito tried to pierce Axel's chest. But Axel sacrificed both of his arms instead by blocking with them. I knew it, if I take away the axe, I take away the power. Obito told Axel as he forcefully took the pole out of Axel's arms. Obito continued his assault with punches and kicks to places that Axel didn't know existed. Obito uppercutted Axel making Axel fall backwards onto the floor. Axel turned his fall into a backwards roll. Axel made a dash for his axe but was cut off by Obito in a matter of seconds. Obito pumped chakra into his fists and punched Axel on the face without stop. Axel blocked one of his chakra-enhanced fists, but had difficulty stopping its momentum. Axel was being pushed back by the fist. Axel suddenly threw Obito over his shoulder making Obito land on his back. Pain shot throughout Obito's back. Axel tried to run for his axe again but Obito wrapped his hands around one of Axel's legs. Axel then held his hand out in the direction of his axe. He seemed to be struggling with something. I don't normally use this magic but this is a dire situation. I'll lose without it, Axel announced gritting his teeth. Axel's axe seemed to be slightly moving off the wall. The force, Axel muttered as he grunted trying to do something with his axe. This carried on for a few seconds. The force is with me, Axel yelled finishing his sentence as his axe magically removed itself from the wall and hovered rapidly towards Axel's hand. Axel catched his axe before turning towards Obito who stood up from the floor and jumped backwards upon seeing Axel's axe back in Axel's possession again. It's been a long time since someone's lasted this long, maybe I should show you all 7 elements. Axel grinned as he slowly turned around. This guy, if this fight continues any longer, I may run out of chakra. Obito thought. I should probably just abandon this job but I can't back down now. After all, I did want to face a strong person. Obito smirked. Play Fairy Tail OST Death Fight against the Executors. Axel sprinted towards Obito and swung at him. Obito ducked only to be met with a kick to the face. Obito was knocked back to the wall as Axel closed down on him again. Axel was about to take a chunk of Obito's head but was repulsed with extreme force. Obito stood up as he then charged towards Axel with a pole sticking out of his palm. Axel only chuckled at the sight of this. Thanks for making it easier for me, Axel mumbled as his axe started to have sparks flying off it. Axel then pointed his axe towards the direction of Obito as a raging bolt of lightning flew towards Obito. Obito jumped to the side only to be surprised when the lightning followed him and struck him midair. Obito shouted in pain as he landed on the floor. The bulky figure of Axel was already on top of the grounded Obito and Axel was already bringing down his lightning covered towards Obito's head. Obito scrambled out of the way and got back up to his feet but as soon as he got back up, he was again struck by lightning. Obito gritted his teeth while in pain. Can he control the direction of his lightning? Obito pondered analyzing the situation at hand. If so, I'm going to have to somehow be faster than the lightning. At that very moment, Obito knew how the lightning kept hitting him. Obito glanced towards Axel's axe before glancing towards the pole sticking out of his palm. I see, no wonder what he meant by making it easier for him. He's taking advantage of the pole as it is a conductor of electricity. In other words, he's using my pole as a lightning rod. Obito thought. This guy is smarter than he looks. Obito thought complimenting on Axel's intelligence in battle. Obito's pole slowly slid in until it stopped sliding into his hand against his own will. What the heck? Obito muttered only to see Axel holding his hand out towards Obito's pole. He's using that same power that he used to get his axe without physically touching it. Obito noticed. Let me ask you something, the force is with me but is it with you? Axel asked Obito with a smug expression on his face. Obito was then suddenly electrocuted by the lightning that shot off Axel's axe. Obito was subjected to pain for the next few minutes. But this was what Obito wanted to happen. He wanted enough time to acclimatize to the pain of the lightning. Obito's pained expression soon turned into a serious one as he got used to the pain. Obito then finally managed to star down Axel while being hit with lightning. Yes, Obito started. Yes, the force is with me. Obito told Axel before Axel felt he was being pulled closer towards Obito. Bansho. Tenon. Universal pull, Obito muttered before Axel was aggressively pulled towards Obito with extreme force. Obito caught Axel by the neck and drove him into the ground, making Axel lose grip of his axe. Obito didn't let go of Axel's neck. Axel's face turned into a bright red as he was being deprived of oxygen. End Ost. This is the end for you, Obito informed Axel as he tightened his grip on Axel's neck. Axel tried to slap Obito, but his hand reached nowhere near Obito. It was a blatant miss. A barrage of glass cups, stainless steel cutlery and ceramic plates then assaulted Obito, forcing him to let go of Axel's neck and get out of the way. After a few seconds passed and the barrage had stopped, Axel had regained the lost oxygen in his body and wielded his axe. I guess this is the last leg of the battle. I'm running out of magic and so are you, Axel declared, looking at the panting Obito. I'm going to go full out from here onwards, Axel told Obito as his axe glowed a bright golden color. He was still holding back. I thought his 7 elements were bluffs, Obito thought as he slightly started to panic. Play Naruto OST reverse situation. Axel charged at Obito, who did the same. Once they got near each other, Axel's axe glowed brighter than ever before. It released an explosion that nearly caught Obito off guard. Axel, unbeknown to Obito, gradually forced Obito into retreat. All Obito could do was dodge the multiple explosions. This magic was inherited directly from the master. Axel shouted while trying to hit Obito, who would continuously dodge. A sloppy swing by Axel left him vulnerable. Obito tried to capitalize on this opportunity by trying to punch Axel in the stomach, but was forced to go backwards as Axel's axe set off another explosion. Obito went through some hand seals at an astonishing pace. Doden, Shindoryuden no Jutsu. Earth style. Earth Dragon God Blast technique, Obito shouted as he slapped his open palm onto the ground, making the ground begin to shake. A large bronze dragon head pops out of the ground and roars, revealing its stone body. It then dived back underground as it started to travel to the Axel. When it finally reached Axel, it shoot up from the ground in a full dragon form and tried to smash into Axel with enormous force, but Axel made an explosion to defend and destroy the dragonoid structure. The debris from the stone dragon flew all around the room. Obito used his Rinnegan to repulse all the debris towards Axel. Axel blocked with the flat side of his axe. Once he lowered his axe, he saw Obito slapping the ground again. Inbaikiri Ekido no Jutsu. Lightning Rage technique. Lightning radiated outwards on the floor, heading directly to Axel, who was electrocuted by the attack. Obito then went through an immense amount of hand signs while molding tons of chakra before shouting, Fuden, Furyu no Jutsu. Wind style. Wind Dragon technique. Raiden, Raryu no Jutsu. Lightning style. Lightning Dragon technique. Doden, Doryu no Jutsu. Earth style. Earth Dragon technique. Sweden, Suiryu no Jutsu. Water style. Water Dragon technique. Kaden, Karyu no Jutsu. Fire style. Fire Drago. N technique and Mokuden, Mokuryu no Jutsu. Wood style. Wood Dragon. The ground started shaking uncontrollably before 6 Chinese-style dragons sprouted from the ground. The dragons, all made out of different elements, circled Obito. Let's see if you can block this, Obito roared as the dragons ascended before coming at an extremely fast pace towards a fearful Axel, who was doubting his chances of blocking the attack. The dragons merged into a giant dragon that soared towards Axel. End Ost. Axel tried to defend with an explosion, but this wasn't enough. The mighty dragon. The dragon collided into Axel, creating a forceful explosion that blew even Obito backwards. There was even more debris flying in all directions. As the smoke from the explosion finally started to clear after a few minutes, it showed a defeated Axel, slumped on wall with blood dripping down from his forehead. Obito relaxed when he saw this. The gruesome battle was finally over. As Obito tried to get back onto his feet, he violently coughed out some blood as he had used more chakra than he had in his body. Obito was in a vulnerable position and couldn't even muster any strength to stand up straight. I still need to get the item that was requested for the mission, otherwise the whole fight would have been pointless. Obito chuckled, wiping the blood from his mouth. Obito then heard the doors of the building slowly creak open. Obito turned his head around to see a muscular but slim young man. He had long blonde hair that covered the left side of his face and distinct animal features on his body. Play Naruto OST Orochimaru fighting theme. Obito was paralyzed in fear. Not only was his regeneration ability going slower due to the lack of chakra flowing in the air, meaning it had to use the chakra produced in Obito as a last resort. The energy radiating of the man was crazy. "You're definitely dead now," Axel spoke from the other side of the room. "Nobody can stand up to Master Jackal," Axel told Obito as the jackal person grinned, showing his sharp teeth. "Oh, what do we have here? My former guard and some random weakling." Jackal spoke, walking past Obito and towards Axel. He stopped a few inches away from Axel. "I have no need for you anymore in this state," Jackal told Axel before a light yellow energy orb appeared on Jackal's palm. Jackal then shot it at Axel, creating a moderate-sized explosion that killed Axel. It was a heartless act that surprised even Obito. The shinobi was used to seeing deaths, but in the elemental nations, one wouldn't even think about doing that to their own comrade. Jackal then turned around and glared at the Uchiha with a grin still visible on his face. "And now, what should I do with you?" At the same time in the Fairy Tale Guild. "Mira, did anybody go off with that archaeological society request?" Makarov frantically asked Murajan, who was drying some cups. "Yes, Obito went off with it a few hours ago." "Why do you ask?" Murajan told Makarov. "Shit." Makarov cursed. "I labeled the job request wrong. It's actually a 100-year quest I've been saving for Guildarts." Makarov told Murajan as he paced around while looking around the room. He didn't want one of Fairy Tale's newest members dying on a fault by the guild master. The guild hall was pretty much empty, with tons of the members out on jobs trying to look good and impress the master for an upcoming event. "Where's all the experienced members when you need them the most?" Makarov mumbled under his breath. He then turned to Fairy Tale's demon, who was also occupying the role of being the bartender. "Mira, I need you to go and assist him to ensure his safety," Makarov ordered. "Why yes, I'll go." Murajan stuttered as she remembered her dead sister who died on a S-class job. Murajan brushed her feeling aside though and followed the master's orders. "Thank you. You need to get there fast though, he could already be in danger," Makarov told the takeover mage. Murajan nodded before she stopped in her tracks. "I remember the job description, but it only had a vague description on where he was meant to go. He was given a map for the job but there were no extras," Murajan informed the master. Shit, Makarov cursed as he ran into another problem. "I need a tracker or a sensor mage, fast." The wizard saint panicked as he frantically looked around the room. "I'll help get Obito back," Cana offered, but it sounded more like a demand. "He went somewhere near the outside of Magnolia, right? I can just pinpoint his location with my cards once I'm near." "No, it's too dangerous for someone of your level. I can't allow you to go," Makarov announced, rejecting her offer. He then noticed the look of determination in the attractive brunette's eyes. Makarov reluctantly let her go assist Murajan and save Obito. "That's surprising, she's not the one who would normally offer herself to do a task like this," Makarov thought, crossing his arms. "But I can't be thinking about that right now. I need to pray for my children's safety. Mostly I need to pray for Obito. I doubt Cana and Murajan will get there in time, unfortunately," Makarov thought. "Stay safe, Obito," Makarov prayed, looking up towards the heavens. Obito was paralyzed in fear. Not only was he already weakened considerably, the energy coming of the man was crazy. "You're definitely dead now," Axel spoke from the other side of the room. "Nobody can stand up to Master Jackal," Axel told Obito as the jackal person grinned, showing his sharp teeth. "Oh, what do we have here? My former guard and some random weakling," Jackal spoke, walking past the Uchiha and towards Axel. He stopped a few inches away from Axel. "I have no need for you anymore in this state," Jackal told Axel before a light yellow energy orb appeared on Jackal's palm. Jackal then shot it at Axel, creating a moderate-sized explosion that killed Axel. It was a heartless act that surprised even Obito. The shinobi was used to seeing deaths, but in the elemental nations, one wouldn't even think about doing that to their own comrade. Jackal then turned around and glared at Obito with a grin still visible on his face. "And now, what should I do with you?" Obito widened his eyes as a dawn of realization hit his face as he now had to somehow defend himself against a monster while already weakened. Jackal suddenly shot a sphere of energy at the former Jinchuriki who had already moved out of the way. The attack hit the floor and created a rather large explosion for its size. The blonde had already ran up to where Obito dodged and kicked him on the bridge of his nose, knocking him back a few inches. The Sharingan wielder stood up in a swift motion as he saw Jackal preparing another orb of energy that was eventually going to be shot at him. Chakra recovery is much slower here, but I'll have to risk it all if I want to see another day. Obito thought as he swiftly went through some hand seals. Kaiten, Ketatamashi Makia, Fire Style, Piercing Hellstrike. By using both hands instead of just one hand for the jutsu, Obito turned the normal Kaiten, Gokaku no Jutsu, Fire Style, Grand Fireball technique into a thin compressed spear composed of scorching flames. He then grabbed the spear from his mouth and retracted his hand which had the spear in it. He then extended his hand while releasing his grip on the spear, making it fly towards the master of the guild, trying to impale his body. Jackal saw the move head first and dodged with no effort, but the heat radiating from the spear was so tremendous that it caused Jackal to lose his breath. The black-haired man saw this as an opening that he could take advantage of and lunged at his opponent. His opponent seemed to take pleasure out of this moment, thought Obito connect. His fist onto the cheek of the animal resembler, fully driving his fist all the way through in the punch, making him crash into a nearby table and smashing it to pieces. End Ost. I let you off the fi. RST time I made contact with you, but to be honest, I just love people going. Jackal's voice spoke, his voice trailing off towards the end of sentence. Suddenly the exact fist that the shinobi landed. A punch with lighted up in a bright yellow that could be mistaken as white. Boom. Even though his hand was somehow still intact, his fist had just exploded, painting him. The sound the explosion made seemed to have finished off the incompleted sentence that had just been said. Play Fairy Tail OST time for fierce battle. What the hell just happened to my hand? I'm surprised it's still in one piece. But it's something to do with making contact with him, right? I've got plenty of other tricks up my arsenal. Obito thought while examining what had just happened. K's Gyorai no Jutsu. Wind Torp. Do technique, the Fairy Tail member said, gathering a large amount of wind into his lungs. He then exhaled his attack in a single blow. The wind formed a near to invisible torpedo that was launched towards his enemy. Upon contact, it exploded with extreme force, similar to the sphere of energy that Jackal shot at Obito. As the dust settled, the blonde's figure could be seen through the smoke that eventually revealed that he was unfazed from the attack. Obito clenched his fists and gritted his teeth at the same time in annoyance. The Uchiha was going to charge at the heartless man before he not iced marking on the floor below him in the corner of his eye. You noticed? You've got sharp reactions. I'm sure you can probably guess what it is due to my display of attacks before. Jackal teased Obito, still grinning like the sadist he was. What's he talking about? What could it be? An explosion of some sort? Wait, a landmine. The ninja wondered, but whatever it was didn't concern him. He acily avoided the marking by teleporting behind the maker via the use of the Shunshin no Jutsu body flicker technique. Obito then tried to pierce through Jackal's skin from behind, but the antagonist adjusted his body position to try and dodge but was too late to react, meaning the Rinnegan user didn't hit the intended vital spot. Hey, I'm surprised a ninja human has lasted this far with me, the blonde lightly chuckled. But this is where the battle ends. He then suddenly shouted, clasping onto Obito's pole before the same marking as before appeared beneath both of the combatants. End Ost. The marking then shone brightly before an explosion occurred. Just before the moment of impact, the black rod fully departed from the Uchiha's palm, meaning he had a chance of escape, but the Uchiha didn't even move a muscle. He was caught up in the explosion, or so Jackal thought. Obito was completely unscathed once the attack stopped, making his opponent widen his eyes in shock. Jackal gritted his teeth and tried to hit the one formerly known as Toby, but this came to no avail. His kicks, hooks and jabs were all futile before the master combatant. What are you? The master growled, still wasting his energy on trying to hit Obito. A human, just like you said. Or more specifically, the Uchiha spoke in a teasing tone as he materialized again and caught Jackal's fist that he was about to be punched with. He squeezed his fist tightly, causing Jackal pain. Your worst nightmare, Obito said darkly, finishing his sentence off as he pumped chakra into his available right hand and pulled it back behind him. He then proceeded to punch Jackal with full force, causing the receiver of the attack to fly all the way to the other side of the room before crashing into a table. Play Naruto OST Hidan theme. You're a human, you say? Don't fuck with me, you monster. Jackal screamed in anger. He considered humans toys and didn't like such resistance from them. Coming from the guy who looks like a cat. Obito responded, pointing out his cat ears, his small and black nose and his furry tail. This infuriated the blonde on another level. You're fucking done, human. You fucked with the wrong demon. The demon announced as he started to go through a serious transformation, not only to his appearance but his power as well. His look changed into that of a beast with large muscles seen throughout his larger frame. His head changed into that of a canine, and if his teeth weren't sharp enough before, they enlarged to an even sharper shape as his nails did the same, making him have fully black hands or claws. His green tank top and baggy trousers instantly ripped but still protected his dignity. His yellow and black scarf and garb on his waist. The hair on his head seemed to grow on every other part of his body, making him gain fur. His tail grew bigger, resembling that of a large beast. His eyes no longer had pupils in them as they took a more slanted shape. His tongue grew to a size of a small ruler and had animal-like legs. A six-pack was still visible on the demon's body. In whole, his body looked like that of a werewolf on steroids. The energy radiating off the new Jackal was insane, befitting of a demon. End Ost. Play Fairy Tail Ost Karyu vs. Engine. The beast let out a deep growl before charging at a near-invisible speed to the former Jinchuriki. The Sharingan was only the only thing that kept Obito getting nailed by the punch Jackal tried to hit. He ducked under the punch and tried to uppercut the demon, but this wasn't one of the shinobi's best ideas. Due to his bigger size, Jackal was much more stronger and durable than before. The monster tanked the uppercut with no problem and smashed Obito onto the floor with a double axe handle. Jackal then tried to continue by stomping on the Uchiha, but the protagonist had fast reactions and did a backwards roll to avoid the demon's feet. I guess physical contact is a no-no. I'll have to rely on jutsus. Obito mused. As soon as Obito thought about that, the hand he had made contact with exploded, causing him pain and anguish. Looks like he still retained his explosion powers, Obito noted. But I should really retreat, at this rate. With the slower chakra recovery, my moves will be a lot weaker and sluggish. The Fairy Tail member slid his feet to the side a bit but was not expecting Jackal to suddenly lunge at him. Obito was forced into a defensive position in the fight and was constantly being pushed back. He eventually collided with the wall and nearly got caught by the demon's ferocious punches. The punk left a huge dent in the wall even though it was aiming for the former Ten Tails Jinchuriki, who had slipped through his body and was running towards the exit. The monster tried to stop Obito in his tracks with the orbs of energy that he could shoot at will. The orbs of energy were double the size of before and were shot at the fleeing combatant, but the orbs narrowly missed the Uchiha Hukonsta. NTLY swerved out of the way and created large explosions. You'd think that they were in a war zone by the amount of explosions. Obito went smashed through the door, not bothering to open it, and tried to flee into the nearby forest until he heard a mighty roar coming from the building. It was obviously from Jackal, but he still turned around out of interest. The building suddenly exploded and shattered into pieces. And the pieces were burnt to ash. Even the dead Axel was caught in the blast and was decimated by it. The sound of the explosion could be heard echoing miles away from their current spot. End Ost. This guy is probably drowning in anger and won't stop his rampage until he kills me, meaning he'll destroy everything in his way. Obito analyzed. In order to stop that, I'll need to defeat him no matter how much it hurts me. Obito concluded. And anyways, I do need to atone for my sins. Play Fairy Tail Ost the ultimate final death battle. Obito smirked as he stared down the beast in front of him. As soon as Jackal sprinted towards Obito, the Uchiha did the same. The demon tried to punch him, but Obito jumped over him. While in mid-air, Obito had completed a set of hand seals in swift motion, and by the time he landed, he had finished them. Kaiten, Goku Meshitsu, Fire Style, Great fire destruction, the Uchiha internally shouted as a rapid and massive stream of flames burst from his mouth and engulfed the demon. As the attack gradually came to an end, Jackal could be seen with his hands, or claws, to his face. The beast blocked most of the attack with a few burn marks here and there. The former human-looking demon shot an explosion orb at Obito, but it went straight through him again. The black-haired man was going through more seals at an astonishing pace as his opponent ran towards him again. It was a race against time to finish. The hand seals before Jackal arrived, but Obito pulled through and completed his hand seals before the demon could even touch him. Doden, Doryuden no Jutsu. Earth Style, Earth Dragon Blast Kaden, Karyu Enden Fire Style, Fire Dragon Blast. 2 dragon heads popped out of the ground and shot out their respective elements in a stream. The mud and fire merged into a flamethrower with mud swirling around it. The move was about to collide into Jackal until he made a large bomb orb that he shot at the move. This created a huge explosion that was paired with a huge smoke cloud. The Uchiha's Sharingan couldn't see through the smoke, so all he could do was prepare for the inevitable, a head-on attack from the beast. But after a few seconds, the attack didn't come. Obito took the risk of going in for a blind attack. As soon as the shinobi rushed into the smoke, he was punched into the ground. The hell? Where did that attack come? Obito was suddenly punched in the stomach again and lost his breath. He was then continuously kicked and punched on all the parts of his body, but mostly the face and the legs, for around 5 minutes straight. He could barely make out the beastly figure of Jackal. The smoke finally cleared as he saw Jackal preparing a bomb orb similar to the size of Obito's fireballs. The Sharingan user scrambled up to his feet in a swift motion before speeding towards Jackal. A pole slid out of the palm of his hand again before he stabbed it in the demon's chest, stopping his attack, which dissipated into thin air. Jackal slowly reverted back to his human form in pain. Once his transformation had completely, his face had turned into that of an evil scheming grin rather than one in pain. End Ost. Checkmate. The demon informed the ninja even with the pole still piercing his body. Are you referring to yourself? Obito questioned. No, I'm referring to you. Jackal responded with a sly grin on his face. Obito suddenly had a bad feeling in his stomach. He swiftly looked towards the ground, his eyes locked onto the landmine markings on the floor, but these markings were of a much wider scale. It would destroy the nearby area as well as a large part of the forest as well. Obito could just escape it like last time, or so he thought. Remember me in hell, bitch. Jackal thundered. As the markings started to light up, the ground started to shake as well. You're too naive. You can't catch me with the same move twice. Obito told Jackal as the pole separated from Obito once again as he tried to make his escape. No, you're naive thinking I'd do the same move again. The demon snapped. Say hello to my endless explosion. This bomb won't stop unless I command it to. Jackal explained. Did this guy forget I could teleport? Obito thought as he tried to teleport away. Where do you think you're going? Jackal asked as he snapped his fingers. Suddenly 5 different parts of Obito's body exploded simultaneously. His body was still intact, but his clothes were in tatters, even though that is how they were at the beginning of the battle. Did you forget I punched like over 100 times? There's no chance of escape. Jackal laughed. I've got to hand it to him. In the space of one battle, he made such a technique to counter my abilities. This guy would be a hassle to face again in the future. Obito confessed as he tried to teleport again, but another explosion occurred on his body, stopping him from teleporting away. Obito could feel energy coming out of the ground. The explosion was going to take place any moment now. The ninja sighed. I didn't even get to atone for my sins. What was the whole point in sending me? Wait, I've got Izanagi, but I'd rat her go to Rin, but I'd probably be sent to hell. I've already made friends here, and I can't abandon them. Obito mused. Izana. Obito. The familiar voice of the attractive female mage, Cana, rang through Obito's ears. Obito stopped activating his jutsu and looked up into the sky to see Cana in the air, being carried by Miragen in her Satan Soru form. Pakuto Dimension. Pocket Dimension, Cana shouted, throwing a card at Obito. Obito was then sucked into and trapped in it. Cana and Miragen then swooped down, collecting the card before making their escape. This was not unnoticed by Jackal, but he used all his power in making the landmine, and the pain shooting throughout his body was too much to handle. Oh well, maybe I'll kill him another day. Jackal sighed before the bomb exploded eating a large explosion that could probably be heard throughout Fury. The trio managed to escape successfully as they headed back to the guild in order to get Obito to safety. The Uchiha couldn't help but thank his saviors, otherwise he would have lost an eye. Back at the guild, the master was waiting anxiously for Miragen's and Cana's arrival. He hoped Obito would be with them too. It was already late in the night. The guild's doors opened and Makarov was about to run up to check who was it, but it turned out to be an ordinary guild member. The wizard saint sighed as he got his hopes up for nothing. The guild's doors then suddenly burst open, revealing a Satan Soru Miragen. Makarov rushed up to them as fast as he could. "Where's Obito?" the old man anxiously inquired. Cana then revealed he card that Obito was sealed into Makarov. He let out a sigh of relief, but he knew he couldn't relax at this current moment. He could clearly see that Obito needed medical attention. "Miragen, contact Perliuzuka. Cana, take Obito to the infirmary and place him on a bed. Also, provide some basic first aid by wrapping him up in bandages where his cuts and bruises are. If there are any major wounds, report it to me and I'll find a solution," the third fairy tale guild master ordered. The current guild members in the building had puzzled faces as they tried to figure the unfolding situation at hand. Cana rushed to the infirmary with Obito's card before placing it on a bed. The card then flashed before the ninja appeared on the bed. He had many scars and bruises on his body, but they seemed to be self-healing. The brunette noticed this but didn't make a comment. "Thanks," Obito mumbled. "What?" Cana asked, not hearing Obito. "Thanks," Obito said louder so it was audible for the female mage. "I guess I've got to give you a present as a sign of appreciation." Obito sighed. "You don't really have to," Cana said, blushing as she was embarrassed from the former Jinchuriki's gratitude. They got 2 wise words," Obito stated as he gestured the brunette to come closer. She leaned in closer, face to face with Obito. They could practically feel each other's breath. "Stop drinking," Obito advised her as he announced his words slowly with large pauses in between the 2 words. An awkward silence occurred as this wasn't what the attractive mage was expecting. "Baka, idiot," Cana led under her breath while pulling away from Obito before leaving the room abruptly. "Wait, tell the other mage thank you as well," Obito shouted as the alcoholic left the room. "All I did was tell the truth," Obito sighed, shaking his head left and right. Around 30 minutes later, a tall elderly woman with bright pink hair walked in the room. The lady was surprised when she saw practically no signs of being in a fight in his body, and the ones that she did see were already healing. Makarov walked in behind her. "So is anything wrong with him?" Makarov asked worriedly. "Fortunately, no. He's already healed for the most part, so all he needs to do is recover his energy. A long nap is all he needs," Perliuzuka explained. The Drayar stopped tensing and relaxed his shoulders. "I'll take my leave now," Perliuzuka announced as she left the room. "Sorry Obito, I apologize for my blunder. I shall not make such a mistake again." Makarov apologized to the ninja. "It's okay, but I didn't finish the mission, by the way." "Do demons actually exist?" Obito inquired. "That's a hard question, they're very rare but some claim to have seen them," Makarov answered. "Well, if that's the case, I also claim to have seen one. In fact, I fought one," the Uchiha notified the guild master. The elderly man widened his eyes at this information. "What?" the master began before he was cut off by an explosion on the outside. "We'll talk about this another time. For the time being, you stay here and rest up. The rest of the members can deal with what's going on outside," Makarov stated. Obito had no choice but to obey the master's orders. The bright gray-haired man then proceeded to leave the room at a brisk pace. Meanwhile, outside of the guild on the edge of Magnolia. Hi, run in fear of the artificial dragon I created," Daphne cackled through her megaphone. The large piece of machinery resembled that of a dragon, except it couldn't fly even though wings were clearly visible on it. Natsu, who was in the core of the machine, was the main source of power for the machine at the current moment due to his Metsuryu Maho dragon slayer magic. Gray could be seen on the top of the head of the dragonoid. Urza, Lucy, Wendy, Happy and Carla were the only members facing off the huge dragonoid. Nobody else was there to assist them. Happy, Carla and Wendy filled Urza and Lucy in with the details as they all stared down Gray. The ice mage jumped down from the dragonoid to a nearby roof. Gray, if you've really betrayed Fairy Tail, then you must have some reason. The redhead stated while shouting at Gray. No reason. The teenager replied with a scowl on his face. Nothing like that. What? Urza was surprised by his attitude, it was like this was a whole new Gray. Gray, the Celaes. Teal Spirit Mage mumbled while worrying for her friend. Hi. And now all my research has come to fruition, and I have completed my dragonoid. Shouldn't you people be singing my praises or something? Daphne teased. Is that the voice of this Daphne person? Give us back Natsu at once. Titania shouted in a demanding tone. Sorry, no can do. Daphne responded with food in her mouth. I'm Sue. Ryu realized that my dragonoid here moves by sucking out Natsu Dragneel's powers. Until I've sucked out all that magic power, I ain't giving Natsu Dragneel back. Daphne notified them. To a wizard, one's magic power is their very life. Urza declared. Give back Natsu now. Lucy commanded. So, what are we going to do? At this rate? Happy asked as he worried for his best friend who was also his partner. Natsu was hearing all of the conversations that were happening between Daphne and his friends and was fueled with anger that he was being kept hostage. Screw this. Natsu shouted as flames wrapped around his body before spreading in all directions in the container, but the fire was quickly converted into power before he was electrocuted for his resistance. Hi, as long as you keep up the good work. We'll be fully charged in no time. Then, my dragonoid will be operational for half an eternity. Daphne announced. You want to get in her way? Just try it. Gray threatened. Although, even with your powers combined, I highly doubt you can hold out long enough to see it fully charged. Gray grinned evilly as his bangs covered his eyes as he insulted his fellow members of the guild. Gray, Urza muttered as her face showed a shared look of confusion and anger. Suddenly, Carla remembered something. I've heard of a dangerous, dragon-crazed wizard who was trying to create an artificial dragon. Carla announced. Is that you? Wendy interrogated. Such slanderous rumors, so far from the truth. They should say, the genius scientist Daphne succeeded in creating an artificial dragon. Daphne suggested. Artificial dragon. Natsu spoke as he recalled a memory from a few years ago. Could it be the egg remains I found back then? Natsu mused. It was truly a long struggle for me to perfect it. It all started with the first step. Successfully hatching an artificial dragon from an egg. The city I lived was a perfect place to gather data, or so I thought. But the people who come from my city can all use hidden, see. Unable to experiment on the city, I had no more use for it. I then punished the residents by permanently trapping them in their own magic and making them unable to dispel their magic. I also punished the incomplete dragonoids who were unable to sense the people who had vanished with their hidden by making them fight each other to the death. Bah. CK then, when I went to that city, the fire mage thought. After that I left the city. Ever since then, it became known as the city without sound. Daphne stated. I continued my research and it finally dawned on me. I need the power of a Doragon Soraya Dragon Slayer to activate the power of a dragonoid. Hi. Natsu Dragneel. Salamander. Keep working until you drop dead. For me, and my evil ambitions. Get fired up. The dark-haired woman yelled at the top of her lungs. Natsu's magic power was being forcefully taken away from him as the humongous dragonoid started to move. Just with one leg moving a step. It caused a tremor and a huge dust cloud. What are you doing? That's dangerous. The white cat squalled. Looks like it's not just big, it's also going to be incredibly tough. Lucy pointed out. Happy agreed as everybody was covering their eyes from the dust. You fiend. The fairy queen roared out, opening her eyes. What are you planning by creating such a thing? Hi. My great ambition is to complete the perfect dragonoid. Even this is nothing more than a prototype. First up, we have to test its current ability. Test. The female scientist shouted, as she pressed down certain keys on her piano that controlled the dragonoid. The dragonoid brought one of its legs up and brought it back down again in hopes to stomp on Wendy and Lucy. The two mages scrambled out of the way to avoid being crushed. Lower half's mobility is subpar, I see. Hi, walking is impossible, say. Daphne noticed as she couldn't get her dragonoid to move forwards. She's trouble. She's really big trouble. Lucy worried. Ooh, I know. She's what they call a mad scientist. The Blue Exceed told the group. We must stop it somehow. Scarlet informed the group. But, with Natsu-san on the inside, we can't just attack carelessly. The Sky Dragon Slayer notified the group while finishing off Urza's sentence. Oh, does it really matter? Carla asked in a rude manner. Carla, Wendy scolded. As everybody was panicking, Urza turned her attention towards Gray, who hadn't moved a muscle from the same position he was before. Gray, is this what you wished for? The scarlet-haired mage internally asked. The sound of screeching tires was heard, grabbing everyone's attention. A speeding magic vehicle was seen speeding towards Gray. Gray, you bastard! Mikao yelled as he was operating the magic vehicle. You've gone and done it this time. Wakaba shouted from the window of the vehicle. As a man, I will bring you back to the guild. Elfman informed Gray as he street-ooed on the top of the vehicle with crossed arms. He then jumped towards Gray and punched him in the stomach, knocking him unconscious. Don't think ill of me. This is Master's orders. The takeover mag. He told the unconscious Gray before jumping back on the magic vehicle. Our master. The Requip mage asked, running over towards Elfman, Mikao and Wakaba. Yeah, looks like he got word of Daphne. The purple-haired man responded. He's decided to ask Gray how to get rid of that giant thing. His best friend added. And then the unthinkable happened. Its wings started to glow a light blue hue. Urza. Don't tell me, Lucy shouted as the dragonoid slowly started to ascend into the air via the use of jets. It's flying. The blonde shrieked, finishing off her sentence. Quote. Flying. That's so unfair. Happy complained. Like you can complain. Lucy muttered, pointing out that the cat had wings for himself. The dragonoid started to soar over Magnolia. Lucy and the rest of you, return to the guild and get everyone mobilized. We'll protect Magnolia, everyone. The Requip mage informed the group. But what would happen to, Lucy began before the knight drew her sword. I will stop that dragonoid. Urza firmly stated. Understood. Lucy reluctantly said before she and Wendy took an exceed each and flew back to the guild. Gray, what could it be? The warrioress mused as she got aboard the roof of the magic vehicle that came to capture Gray. I will do all that I can. Urza thought, put her life on the line for the sake of the guild. You deal with Gray, okay. Titania told Mikao. Aye, sir. The driver responded, mimicking happy. And you take care of Natsu, K. Wakaba told Urza from inside the car. Your word as a man. Elfman added. Leave him to me. Urza smiled with a triumphant, HMPH, heard. Stop. The female mage then shouted at the dragonoid as she did a large jump towards the flying piece of technology. She was then intercepted by another one of Daphne's artificial creatures, the lizardman. Konso. Requip, Urza shouted as she requipped into her Kurha no Yoroi black wing armor to stop her falling to the ground. The lizardman copied her attributes and grew wings and wielded the same sword as the Requip mage. An artificial creature that mimics people's attributes. The mage muttered as she flew faster as the lizardman pursued her. She then stopped high in the sky with the moon directly behind her. Even if you have the same attributes as I, you don't carry the same burdens. Urza shouted as she slashed her sword at her pursuer, defeating it as it went back into its original form before puffing away. Hi, that's good for you. Daphne told the fairy tale member who was currently opposing her plans. Scarlet then landed on the immobile tail of the artificial dragon. But how about this? Daphne questioned as a group of 5 lizardmen blocked Urza's path. The Requip mage widened her eyes at this because each lizardman had one of Urza's armors and swords weapons. You'll soon find out the power of my lizardmen v2.5. Titania, Urza Scarlet. Daphne told the redhead. The S-class mage engaged in battle with the new and improved lizardmen. Hi, what a fun city. I'm getting chills up my spine just thinking about how fun it'll be to pulverize it. Daphne giggled. So sit there in your box seat and watch the fireworks. Assuming you have the strength to do that. The scientist teased. Damn it, I can't move, Natsu thought. Natsu, the dragon slayer, a voice called out. That voice, I've heard it somewhere, Natsu thought. He then remembered about the city he went to a few years back. I thought it was a dream or something, so I completely forgot. Natsu admitted. Defeat the one who controls dragons, damn it, so this is what they meant. Natsu mused. Well, I promised, didn't I? As fire started to emit from his body. Daphne widened her eyes when a beeping sound occurred in the dragon's control room. Natsu Dragneel.'s powers have grown higher than my data. At this rate, my dragonoid will go into overdrive. Daphne worried. I won't lose. Natsu yelled as his fire grew more and more out of control. Hi. At times like this, if I calmly and meticulously keep sucking up your magic at a reasonable pace, then everything will be okay. Daphne spoke, talking to herself as she pressed various keys on her piano. Hi, excellent work. Thank you for the lovely magic power. Daphne thanked Natsu as a chunk of his magic power was sucked out. Damn it, give me a break here. A weakened Natsu complained. Meanwhile, back at the guild. The guild hall was more busier than usual as it was serving for the safe house of the city. We've got trouble. Levi, a petite blue-haired fairy tale mage, told Mirajan. Elf, Man and the others came back, but Mirajan didn't even let Levi finish her sentence before she ran outside to check the condition of her brother. Elfman, Mirajan cried out as she ran to her hurt brother. Take Wakaba and Mikau to the infirmary and see to them. Cana ordered. Are you okay? What happened? The bartender asked. Nei-chan, take it from here, save Natsu. Elfman weakly begged. Okay, leave Natsu to me. Mirajan told her younger brother. At that very moment, Elfman passed out of exhaustion, worrying his sister. Elfman, the white-haired mage, worried. I'll heal him with my sky magic, Wendy announced as she ran up to Elfman. Cana gritted her teeth at the sight of this and stomped over to Gray. Oi Gray, you awake? Tell us what the hell's going on here. The brunette beauty demanded. If you don't all. Please, stop. Juvia, a skilled water mage of Fairy Tail, begged Cana. There is no way Gray-sama betrayed Fairy Tail. Juvia told Cana, teary-eyed while protecting her crush. Juvia believes in him. Juvia continued, referring to herself in a third person. No matter what people say, even if the whole turned against him, Juvia. Enough, Juvia. Gray commanded, stopping Juvia from saying any more. You're talkin' me to Gramps, right? I don't think we have time to kill. The ice mage commented. Follow me. Alzak, another Fairy Tail mage who specialized in guns magic. We're making sure you don't try anything funny. His partner, Biska, informed Gray. She also uses guns magic and also utilizes Requip. Gray-sama, Juvia mumbled, worrying for her crush. Wendy had just finished using her sky magic to heal Elfman. He should be fine now. Wendy notified the group before nearly passing out. Wendy. Both Mirajan and Lucy shouted out simultaneously. I'm okay, I cure Wakaba-san and Mikau-san soon. Or, Wendy began before she was cut off by her partner. Stop it. If you use any more sky magic, your life will be at risk. Carla told Wendy, opposing what the sky mage wanted to do. I don't care. Wendy argued. Well, you should. Carla told her. I want to help everyone. Then I can really be a member of Fairy Tail. Wendy informed her partner with a determined look on her face. Sheesh, you're so stubborn. The White Exceed sighed, giving up on changing her desires. Everyone, please work together and save Natsu. Lucy shouted out a few seconds after the previous argument. Play Fairy Tail OST main theme. Yeah, we all own Natsu, big time. Jet, you can probably guess what guild he belongs to, admitted. Yeah, when we were beat up by Phantom, Droy, a lean man who was in a team with Jet and Levi called Team Shadow Gear. He fought for us, then. Levi spoke, finishing off Droy's sentence. Natsu gave me courage. Mikau's son, Romeo announced. It's the same for everyone else, right? This time we'll be the ones to save Natsu. All right, if we work together, we can save Natsu. Romeo encouraged everybody. Aye, sir. Everybody shouted in unison. Wait, the familiar voice of Makarov demanded. Master, Lucy muttered in surprise. Fairy Tail is a guild that lives and dies with Magnolia. Our first priority is to protect the city from being destroyed. The master declared. You want us to destroy that thing? Lucy questioned in shock. But Natsu is inside it. Happy argued. As master of Fairy Tail, I order you to all use any means necessary to destroy the Dragonoid. Makarov announced, paying no heed to the disgusted looks he received. What? He'll be fine. His body is built nice and sturdy. The wizard saint informed everybody. Meanwhile, on the tail of the artificial dragon, Urza was engaging in a handicapped battle against 5 lizardmen who had copied 1 armor and sword each. This proved tough for Urza as these lizardmen were no slouches. Natsu, can you hear me? Natsu, Urza asked loudly as she slashed at the lizardman's adamantine shield. You are not a wizard that would be done in by something like this. Urza, Natsu though. UGHT hearing her voice while inside the machine. We were always like this. We communicated by fighting. If you hadn't been there, I would have already thrown away my life. Urza said aloud. I can't lose to you. Urza spoke, turning her attention towards the direction of her current enemies as she re-equipped into an attire with no armor and just a bra that looked like it was composed of bandages covering her chest. It was accompanied with rather baggy red trousers with flames on the bottom of it. No matter what, Natsu, I am going to bring you back with me, Urza declared as all the lizardmen charged at Urza. Urza lunged towards her enemies with 2 swords and continuously blocked with 1 sword and attacked with the other. She managed to break one of the lizardman's weapons before they all puffed away for an unknown reason. Daphne, the warrioress screamed in anger as she sprinted towards the control room. Oh, too bad. Time's up, Daphne muttered to herself evilly before the once I am mobile tail suddenly lowered, making Urza fall backwards and desperately grab onto the tail. The dragonoid started losing altitude before it finally landed in the town center. The sudden impact of landing made the redhead lose grip and fall onto the floor, extremely hurt. Daphne started cackling like a maniac as the dragonoid lifted its humongous legs up. I'll stomp you flat, Urza. Scarlet. Daphne cackled as the feet descended towards the vulnerable Urza. Blast bullet. Stinger shot. Magiku Kato Ekusupero John. Magic card explosion. Wota Ceresa. Water slicer. Sando Supeya. Sand. Spear. A collection of fairy tale mages used their magic to hit the large machine, distracting and stopping the dragonoid from crushing each and every bone in Titania's body. In the master's office. Looks like it started, Makarov uttered to himself. Tell me why, he demanded. I'll take full responsibility, Gray stated, though not looking at the master directly. I said, tell me why. Gray. Makarov thundered, unpleased with the response he received from Gray. Jichin, only Natsu can defeat that dragonoid. Gray finally spoke after a while, but Makarov still wasn't satisfied with his answer. I heard a rumor while out on a job, that someone was trying to create an artificial dragon. That's how it started, Gray answered. And that's when you had this secret rendezvous with this fool? The master asked with his arms crossed, his arms, looking at the ice mage intently. She said that she was gonna capture Natsu and use him as the dragon's power source. Gray told the interrogator as he clenched his fists. And during the meeting, I don't think she realized it then, but she told me something that I thought was important. Once it starts, the only way to stop the dragonoid is from a dragon slayer to attack it from the inside. The teen explained. But if you hadn't handed Natsu over, that monstrosity wouldn't have been able to activate, correct? Makarov presumed. No, that wasn't the only reason. Unless Natsu defeats her, the people in that city won't. Gray spoke, not finishing his sentence as he looked to the floor in anger. The people in that city? The older man in the room questioned. That Baka went and forgot the promise he made to the people in the city without sound. That guy doesn't know when to quit, so sometimes when we were younger, I'd go see how he was doing out on jobs. But that idiot forgets everything when he's thinking about Igneal. I'm not telling you to forget about Igneal, but you must always remember your main role is that of a wizard of this guild. Right, I wasn't able to surpass her, but him, Natsu's the kind of guy who can surpass anything. Even Igneal himself. That's who Natsu is. If he doesn't keep getting stronger, fighting him won't be worth it. Gray yelled, standing up from his chair. He quickly settled down again as he sat back on his chair. He seemed to have a sad and guilty look spread across his face. Damn it, I thought he'd be able to destroy it easily. Let me out there, Jichin. The raven-haired teen begged. After a few moments of deep thinking by Makarov, he made his decision. Understood. I'm going to give you the plan. The master informed Gray, making him morph a look of surprise on his face. So the master decided that destroying the dragonoid was the top priority. Urza commented aloud. What about Natsu? The scarlet-haired mage questioned. He said he was sturdily built, so he should be okay. Lucy briefed. I see. The redhead mumbled. Natsu. She then called out. On Master's orders, we will stop the dragonoid with full force. Before we do that, I want to check with you. Let us hear you. Sure, I'll let you hear. The dragon slayer smirked as the tone of his voice was that of an evil one. Natsu. Urza uttered as she thought her friend had become evil due to the tone of his voice. Ready. Cock an ear and listen up. Natsu began. Bust this thing up, and me along with it. The fire mage yelled as he thumped his chest. But if we do that, what will happen to you, Natsu? His best friend, Happy, inquired. Stop making excuses. If Magnolia gets ruined 'cause of me, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. Natsu responded to his fellow members. Not budging a bit, huh? Alzak pointed out. At this rate, Biska started. The city would be, Levi worried. What should we do, Urza? Lucy inquired, but all she got was silence. Answer me, Urza. But Urza seemed to be in deep thought. What incredible power! Daphne shouted. This power is exquisite, she added as she continued to press more keys on her piano. It's the same as it was back then, the woman said as she recalled the moment she saw a dragon soar over her head when she was younger. So fearsome, so ferocious, I'd never seen anything so beautiful, but dragons are free spirits. Since I never knew when I might meet one again, I made one for myself. Daphne yelled the end of her story. Arg, screw you. You ain't the only one who wants to see dragons. So do I, Wendy and Gajiel. But instead, dragons are gone. They're extinct, just a hallucination. Daphne told Natsu, bluntly interrupting him. Liar, liar, liar. Daphne suddenly blurted out in a fit of rage. No one believed me. They laughed at me, ignored me. Beings of such power, dragons, they kept denying they existed. Out of all people, you must know how painful being told that is, right? The scientist told the dragon slayer. And now I've finally been able to unveil this. To show everyone. Wow, that's one messed up backstory. Happy remarked. That's the reason, Lucy questioned. First, I'll crush this city. And then fly around the entire continent. Daphne announced as the dragonoid let out a mighty roar that nearly knocked the mages off their feet. Out of the corner of their eyes, the mages spotted the familiar figure of Gray. Gray. The redhead blurted out in surprise. Sheesh, I should have seen this coming. The teenager sighed as he looked towards the humongous dragonoid. I'll give you the outlines of what really happened. You're free to believe me or not. Gray announced. Meanwhile, inside the dragonoid. Crap, I've got to at least stay conscious. Natsu told himself from inside the artificial dragon as more and more of his magic power was being drained in order to power the dragonoid. Come on, resisting any futile, I'm telling you. A voice inside Natsu's head told him. It ain't futile. Put some guts into it. Another identical voice argued. The real Natsu quickly scanned the area to see where the voice was coming from, and turns out it wasn't from his head. There were actually two chibi Natsus on the floor, each having a slightly different appearance to their original. Don't you get what Daphne is saying? A much lighter-toned Natsu asked. He had permanent, bright pink blush marks on his face. No, I don't. You forgot about our promise. A much darker-toned Natsu responded. Me? Natsu yelled in surprise. His eyes literally gauging out of their sockets. The chibi doppelgangers turned towards the real thing with a less surprised look than their original. Only 6% left. It's about time to start, I see. Daphne murmured as she started to play her instrument yet again, controlling the dragonoid and making it move inwards to the city. Hi 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 hi, Daphne shouted through her megaphone. With the fairy tale mages. He forgot a promise as important as that. Lucy spoke, dumbfounded on what Gray had just told her. Honestly, I'd expect that of him, but still. Urza said with a look of disgust and frustration plastered on her face. Thank goodness. Juvia believed in you, Gray-sama. Juvia announced while a merry expression was visible on her face. There wasn't any other method, Gray admitted, continuing with what he was saying. But right now, our first priority is doing something about that big thing. Gray declared as he started down the massive artificial dragon that was currently terrorizing the city. Do something. Like what? Carla asked with her arms folded, unable to think on how they could help the current unfolding situation at hand. Someone's collapsed, the Sky Mage pointed out. noticing a baker with minor injuries, sprawled out on the floor. That's the owner of the cake shop. Urza notified the group. The redhead had a deep and passionate love for sweets and desserts, especially strawberry cake. He didn't evacuate fast enough. Levi worried. Cover us. Wakaba ordered the bluette as he ran towards the hurt baker. We'll go save him, Droid told the petite fair. White-tail mage as he and Jet ran over to assist the cake shop owner. Hi. Lizardmen 3.1, show yourselves. The crazed scientist demanded as tons of lime green magic circles formed in the sky. NT. Hen as if they came from another universe, lizardmen jumped out of the magic circles and rushed down to attack all who opposed their creator's plans. Crap, there ain't no end to him. Bixlow shouted, growling at the sheer number of lizardmen that were planning to attack them. They were probably the size of a moderately large Rune Knight unit. What are you doing here? Urza interrogated as she descended from the rooftop to aid the cake shop owner. My shop's been crushed, but at least I saved this. The baker responded weakly as he tightly clutched onto the two-layer, encased, strawberry cake. For this, Urza was lost for words as she glanced down upon her favorite food but was confused why the owner would save something that would endanger himself. You were welcoming two newcomers, yes. I'm not going to lose to a big thing like that. The baker stated as the fairy tale mages surrounding him were thankful for his caring and determined attitude towards them. I'll heal him, Wendy offered as she crouched down towards the cake maker. Wait, Wendy, your magic power still hasn't, the White Exceed warned her partner before she was cut off. Don't worry, I rested a little. The young dragon slayer told her partner as she began to heal the baker. I'm counting on you, Wendy. Titania informed her as she took the strawberry cake off the now unconscious baker's hands. You know, I can't stand pickled plums. Wendy told Urza, completely irrelevant to the current events. Pickled plums, Urza repeated. Yes, they're like my weakness. Wendy admitted as she momentarily paused with the healing of the cake shop owner. Everyone has one. A weakness, that is. Wendy announced. I've only just joined Fairy Tale. I've only just started with everything but I want to laugh more with Natsu-san. With everyone, cry with everyone, get mad with everyone, I want to high-five with Natsu-san once again. Wendy confessed as she resumed her healing. Please save Natsu-san. Dragon Slayer begged her fellow members of the guild before falling unconscious on top of the cake shop owner. Hey, Urza stressed, looking at Wendy's motionless body. Wendy, you fool, you see what I said. The female Exceed shouted at her best friend, running over to her. Other members shared the same worried feeling as Carla and Urza while still mostly focusing their attention on the incoming attack. It's okay. She's just lost consciousness. But she's lost most of her magic power. Murajan, who had just checked on Wendy's condition, informed everybody. Only Natsu can defeat it. Urza sighed as she turned towards the dragonoid. But Master told us to attack the dragonoid. The redhead recited. She was in deep thought for a few seconds before an idea popped into her head. I see. Urza. Jichin gave me a secret plan, Gray began telling her while walking up to Titania but was cut off. I figured as much. You don't have to tell everyone. Urza told the ice mage before requipping. Into her, Tenrin no Yoroi, Heaven's Wheel armor. The rest of you, eliminate the lizardmen with everything you got. Urza commanded. I will take down the dragonoid. But Urza, Lucy began. What's gonna happen to Natsu? Happy asked, finishing Lucy's sentence. This is the Master's will, therefore it is Fairy Tale's will. Urza replied with a determined look on her face. Protect this city at all costs. By the honor of this guild, our very soul. Urza, Gray murmured, surprised by Urza's actions before following Titantia's orders and preparing to defend the city. Juvia, come with me. Gray told Juvia, who blushed upon hearing these words as his fantasies slowly spiraled out of control. The requipped mage then flew into the sky, above the massive mechanical weapon before proceeding to shout. Tenrin, Barumanburito, Heaven's Wheel, Blumenblatt. A fair amount of swords spawned next to Urza as she charged towards the dragonoid head first, slashing it with the two swords in her hands. The remaining swords mimicked her actions and attempted to skewer the Dragon Slayer-powered creation but failed in doing so. Hi, such a weak attack is not a problem. Daphne commented. 3% left until fully charged. Daphne announced. What is it? This thing's weak point, what is it? Urza thought, getting impatient. Meanwhile, the lizardmen had just landed and started to attack the Airy Tail mages who were trying to defend the city with all their might. The lizardmen were capable of copying abilities and fighting on equal terms with their opponents. Cana, however, was gradually pushed back into an alleyway that had a dead end. The brunette was unaware of this dead end and was surprised when she hit a wall. This left no room to dodge and attacks as the lizardman threw a variety of cards at her. Unknown to Cana, these were only distractions as the lizardman was actually setting up traps. And in a matter of seconds, Cana fell into one of those traps. The trap she stepped was a simple layout of cards, set in a circle. As she stepped in them, they suddenly glowed. Crap. This is the Meshi Raideningu summoned lightning card spell. Cana said aloud before she could hear thunder in the skies above her. Lightning then ran down to her at a frightening speed and she could only hold her arms up to her head, preparing for the inevitable attack. After a few seconds of feeling nothing, she opened her eyes to see a heavily bandaged Obito standing in front of her as he used his chakra receivers to act as a conductor and redirect the direction of the attack. Obito, she mumbled, confused why he was here and not in the infirmary. Just stay back, this'll be over in a few seconds. The Uchiha told her as a second lizardman spawned. Obito's Mangekyo Sharingan gleamed B. 4 warp holes spawned on both the lizardmen's heads, leaving their body lifeless. He wasn't joking, Cana thought, widening her eyes and slightly blushing at his strength. We should get moving and assist the others. Obito advised her as they started running towards the others. With Gray and Juvia, the two mages were currently on top of the toy shop roof. Gray-sama, Juvia questioned as she wondered why they were brought to such a place. Okay, this should be in that thing's blind spot. The perfect place for a counterpunch. Gray told Juvia as they gazed at the terrorizer from afar. What exactly are you thinking? Juvia mumbled under her breath. Juvia, I need your help. Gray pleaded, even though it sounded more like an order. This is the crucial moment to decide whether Natsu lives, or not. And I can't think of a fairy tale without Natsu. Gray growled, clenching his fists to the point where you'd think they'd bleed. That just ain't happening. Gray-sama. Juvia blushed. At her crush's determined and angry attitude. Well, to be honest, she blushed at anything the raven-haired teen did. A unison raid. Gray began. We're gonna cover for Urza and crush all the grunts at once. But, Juvia started, about to object to her love's plans. Ice and water, I felt it before when we faced each other, I think our magic is very compatible. Compatible. Juvia blurted out her face turned into a very bright red. As long as you believe in me, I'm sure we can do it. Gray assured the water mage. Will you lend me your power, Juvia? Hi, Juvia shyly responded, as tears could be seen forming in her eyes. They both then held each other in the position of the cha-cha-cha dance. Magiku Yugo Magic Power Fusion. Unison Raido Unison Raid. Both Gray and Juvia outed simultaneously as they combined their magic together. A large blue magic circle formed with an even larger, lighter blue magic circle above it. Large pillars of water suddenly bursted through the grounds of the city. What the hell is this? Jet and Droy couldn't help but watch the attack that was taking place. A curtain of ice Levi noticed. The large torrents of water were instantly frozen and were turned into icicles that rained down upon Daffy's creations. The lizardmen were easily decimated by the light blue icicles that were practically inescapable. Somehow, none of the icicles hit the fairy tale mages. I know the feeling of this magic power. Lucy stated in surprise. It's a unison raid of water and ice. Carla pointed out as the icicles that destroyed the lizardmen turned into snowflakes. Do you think Gray and Juvia? Mirajan asked, not finishing her sentence but still getting the question across. They did it. Happy teased, rolling his tongue. Wow, Lucy said in awe of the spectacle that had just occurred. Thanks, Juvia. Gray thanked. Juvia is glad. Gray-sama puts it all on the line for his friends. That's one reason why I've come to LL love you. Juvia confessed, turning around to face Gray only for her heart to be broken when her love was nowhere to be seen. Where'd Gray-sama go? Juvia shouted in frustration. Meanwhile inside the Dragonoid, look at that. You gonna let him get away with stealing the most juiciest scenes? The evil Natsu asked his two other counterparts. Not bad, Gray. The optimistic Natsu simply told him in response, annoying the evil Natsu to the point where he would kill him. We should crush him, the evil Natsu argued. Shut the hell up. The real Natsu screamed, as he was probably more annoyed than the evil Natsu. I'm getting so pissed right now. Natsu's emotions were still controlling the Dragonoid as it absorbed more and more of his magic power. Then why don't you crush this city, huh? The evil Natsu suggested in a rude tone. I said I can't though. The normal Natsu replied. Everybody's faces were pretty much blank as most people's sweat dropped at the Dragonoid who was currently displaying Natsu's feelings. I think this is getting a bit out of hand, happy sweat dropped. Oi, Natsu. Can you hear me? Gray roared at the top of his lungs. Gray. All three Natsus said T the same time in response to the calling of their names. You're completely helpless. You should be ashamed. You're nothing but talk, squinty eyes. Gray insulted Natsu, provoking the pink-haired dragon slayer. How long are you gonna stay fused in that thing, doing your one-man stand-up? What did you say? Natsu barked at Gray. What's that for? That's cruel, Gray. The tomcat informed Gray, giving his 2 cents on the situation, but then Happy suddenly noticed something. You forgot about the promise you made. And you can still call yourself a fairy tale wizard? Gray questioned Natsu. Could be seen burning in the pupils of his eye. Hurry up and destroy that dragon thing before I pummel your ass. Gray's somewhat motivational speech made the huge Dragonoid in Natsu sweat drop. Hi. So that's what you were after, Gray Fullbuster? Daphne rhetorically questioned. But it's already too late. Why, you ask? Because Salamander's magic power, and even most of his will itself, has been absorbed to power my invention No Innovation. Daphne declared. If I could destroy this, I would have done it by now. The optimistic Natsu announced. Go crush that droopy eyes flat. The ill Natsu told the real Natsu who was gathering all his magic power. I'm disappointed in you, Natsu. The blue Exceed voiced, joining in on the insults directed towards the son of Igneal. What? Isn't it so? Haven't you gotten through every challenge before by destroying stuff? I don't want to hear stuff like, bust me up with it. Happy continued. That's right. Everyone in Fairy Tail needs you. That's why we're trying so hard. A Natsu that doesn't respond to the feeling of his friends isn't the Natsu that I know. Lucy criticized Natsu. The sight of this only made the other nearby mages sweat drop at their tactic. This tactic could only be used on idiots, and Natsu seems to fit into that category. Lucy. Why, you, Natsu growled. That's so mean. The optimistic Natsu told Lucy. Let's crush her. The evil Natsu suggested. Everyone's right. You're sitting there, trapped. You've completely given up. Urza lectured Natsu, also joining in. When did I give up, exactly? Natsu quarreled with Titania. If I recall correctly, you said, bust me up. That's the same as giving up. It's nothing more than weakness. So, just as you wish, I shall rid the world of this giant thing. The Requip Mage told the Fire Mage. This has gotten quite weird, Cana pointed out. Whoa there, Natsu's soul has mostly fused with the Dragonoid. Bixlo notified the group via the use of his eye magic, Figua Isu, figure eyes. Just try it. Natsu roared at his fellow guild members as literal fire could be seen shooting out of the artificial dragon's mouth in a stream that probably burnt the stars in the night sky. Hi. The lizardmen may be wiped, but as long as I have this power, I'll be invincible. Daphne stated with a crazed look noticeable on her face. Fairy Tail has no need for those who view their own life as insignificant. Urza said, continuing her verbal assault. I dare you to say that again. Natsu told Urza. I can't imagine a prideful dragon ever wanting to see someone as weak-willed as you. Urza spoke, insulting the dragon slayer while equipping her, Kurha no Yoroi, black wing armor. When you'd leap into his chest to embrace him, he would smack you. Silly. A scowl formed upon Natsu's face as he started baring his canine-like teeth. Gimme a break. The pink-haired mage growled in frustration as his magic power gradually escalated. This was the same for his anger. With this power, couldn't we beat Urza? Both Chibi Natsus excitedly asked themselves, making their real counterpart don a look of surprise on his face for a second or so. Sounds like fun. Bring it, Urza. The teen yelled, obviously deciding to take up the suggestion that his doppelgangers advised by challenging the Fairy Queen. Today, finally, I will beat you. Natsu yelled as the dragon did the same. Man, what a simpleton. Gray sighed, scratching the back of his head. I can hear it. He is pretty much saying exactly what he feels. Happy informed everybody Hat was near him with a sort of evil expression on his face. He was doing an impression of an enemy they faced called Cobra, who could hear people's thoughts. Yes, Lucy replied, also doing an impression. This time of an enemy who turned into an ally, belonging to the same group as Cobra. The man was codenamed Hotai. We're doing impressions now, Carla questioned, doing an inner facepalm. Hey, don't move on your own. Daphne commanded the rage-filled salamander, but he wasn't to listen to anybody as the only thing on his mind was crushing the Requip mage like a pancake. You scared, Urza? Natsu taunted as he stomped, in his dragonoid form, towards Urza. Someone like you, the redhead began as she jumped over all the way to Daphne's creation before attempting to crush the core's blood-red shell with her sword. Nope, she's scary after all three dragon slayers said in unison. Urza was going to finish her sentence but gritted her teeth when her attack didn't even leave a scratch on the shell. It's not enough, Urza mused. What? That's all you got? Gray asked Urza but was too far away from Titania to be heard. The son of the Fire Dragon King quickly refueled up on his anger as his magic power soared over its capacity, causing his doppelgangers to dissipate due to the heat. I ain't kiddin', around here. Natsu barked as his pupils started to fade away as fire shot out from every joint, every sweat gland in his body. The fire rampaged throughout the piece of machinery and made holes in the dragonoid to escape the body. Oh, what happened all of a sudden? He magic power being absorbed as exceeding capacity. Daphne pointed out, she no longer bared that crazed, evil look on her face but instead, an expression of worry and panic. All you guys think you can get away with pushin' my buttons. The fire-breathing mage thundered as you could literally hear the fire crackling and making a distinct SSSS sound. The whole dragonoid could be seen lighting up from the inside with fire. The guild master only looked on at the situation from afar, examining everything that was going on. The flames of emotion, was all Makarov said as the fire had turned an orangey red color. Natsu. Both Lucy and Happy shouted for their teammate who looked like he was going to explode of flames. Natsu-san. Wendy worried as Mirajan watched on, next to her. Man, this is messed up. A familiar deep voice spoke through the smoke of falling buildings from behind them. A tall figure could be seen walking towards the group of mages who were also watching the situation. I warned him and everything. You know, now the guy who's always hot under the collar has a body that's hot all over. Gajiel. Happy blurted out upon seeing the Iron Dragon Slayer. Man, the dolt. Gajiel sighed. Gajiel. Natsu said when he heard Gajiel's somewhat annoying voice. That view only applied to Natsu and Obito, however. Stop makin' work for me. The son of Metallicana scolded He son of Igneel before announcing, Metsu Ryu Ogi, Goma Tetsu Razan Dragon Slayer's secret art, Karma Demon, Spiral. Gajiel transformed his leg into an above-average sized drill before starting to rotate wildly. He soared down to the core's shell, piercing and cracking the shell in a matter of seconds before destroying it completely. A bright light blinded everyone for a few seconds before Gage L was seen bearing a smug look on his face as he looked down and the somewhat scared-looking Natsu. Gee Gajiel. Salamander stuttered as he looked up at his comrade. Looks like I still got ways to go. I was tryin' to pulverize the whole thing and bust you up with it. The Iron Dragon Slayer admitted. The Fire Dragon Slayer only did a light chuckle at Gajiel's confession. Lucy. Call that horse guy. Send all the fire ya got on an arrow in air. The former Phantom Lord Mage called out. Nice Gajiel. Lucy praised Gajiel for his efforts. Leave the rest to me. Lucy added as her celestial gate key glowed brightly before a light blue magic circle appeared at the end of where her gate key was pointed. As it were, Mashimoshi. Sagittarius introduced himself while saluting. If you can hear me, everyone who can use fire, lend a hand. The female teen pleaded as Sagittarius got ready to shoot an arrow towards the son of Igneel. Okay, got it. Cana responded as she readied her cards. Redis replied. We just need to send fire to Natsu, right? Levi confirmed. Just need to send fire to Natsu, Obito thought as a sadistic smile that betrayed all innocence in the Uchiha spread across his face. As the mages readied their attacks, Obito walked in front of them. Don't worry, you guys can stand back. I'm just going to test something. Cuckoo, the former Jinchuriki snigger. Before it turned out to a full-out laugh. The mages around him were confused by his laughter as there was nothing funny about the situation. Just what exactly do you want to test out? Lucy interrogated Obito. How much fire he can eat. Or in my terms, how much fire he can handle before he drops dead. Was all he replied with. The nearby mages widened their eyes and were going to intervene. But he quickly used Doden, Doryuheiki Earth style, Earth Wall to create a barrier that separated him and the others. Obito then had concentrated most of the chakra that was currently residing in Hai's body to his stomach before going through the rat, ox, dog, horse, monkey, boar and tiger in that order. Kaiten, Goka Meshitsu, fire style, majestic fire destruction. The shinobi shouted as a large, intense stream of flames flowed out of his mouth as it traveled towards the two dragon slayers. The slayers both sweat dropped at the fire raging towards them. Even I think that's a bit too much fire for Salamander. Gajeel gulped. Have a nice time eatin', your fill Salamander. I'm outta air. Gajeel told Natsu before jumping off the dragonoid. The fire dragon slayer started mentally preparing himself for the flames he was about to devour, doubting himself on whether he could even eat all the flames. I can do this. I can do this. I can do this. Natsu kept repeating in his mind as the fire was now inches away from coming in contact with him. I can do this. I can do this. The fire was now centimeters away. I can't do this. The son of the fire dragon king admitted loudly as the fire hit him. The distinct sound of flames being sucked up could be heard as the attack was slowly drawn towards the dragon slayer's mouth. Neither the attacker or the receiver of the attack let in, it was a battle of willpower. Natsu was reaching his limit, as he could slowly be seen stumbling backwards as his stomach grew and grew. But Obito's stamina was also running on empty, he could drop dead of lack of oxygen any minute now. But in the end, it was the Uchiha who let out first as he viewed his test as complete. The pink-haired teen was applauded by the Sharingan wielder as Natsu had finally finished eating the flames. He let out a fire burp, literally, before fire escaped from every joint in her body. Play Fairy Tail OST Dragon Force. That scientist insulted the pride and majesty of dragons. Natsu said to himself, I'm gonna crush her good. And now that I just ate, I'm all fired up. The fire mage grinned while putting his fist and palm together. He then jumped out of the core and fell feet first towards the ground. Happy, he called. Aye sir. His partner responded as Happy caught him from his free fall and flew him above the dragonoid's head before dropping him. Daapph knee. Natsu angrily called out her name as he punched through the dragon's head into the control room. The dragon slayer's eyes were that of a dragon's itself, staring down its prey. Go ahead. Try and use one of those hidden techniques. I'm getting more power as I speak. More than you can hide from with your magic. Natsu dared her as his demeanor and stance had a striking resemblance to a dragon. I finally met one, Daphne thought as a stray tear escaped her eye. Apologize to Igneel, you four-eyed bastard. The mage demanded as fire engulfed his right hand. For this imposter dragon. He finished punching Daphne with such force, the head disconnected itself from the neck and started falling to the floor. Fortunately for Daphne, this meant that her opponent couldn't land the finishing blow on her as the head was now considered as transportation. End Ost. Ugh, Natsu weakly groaned as he fell onto floor. This is my chance. Daphne grinned as she somehow managed to mock-eat herself towards the teenager without stumbling due to their falling. Daphne then stabbed 2 different needles into Natsu and 4 into herself. Just as she finished doing this, a sudden crash signaled that they had finally landed. The pink-haired fire mage groggily stood up on his 2 feet as he regained his energy back. Unfortunately for you, Natsu Dragneel, this fight is over. I win and you lose. Daphne triumphantly told Salamander, who didn't giving 2 flying poops to what the scientist informed him. Natsu instantly charged at Daphne as he was now fully recovered from his motion sickness and punched Daphne in the face. making her flying back into a wall as her glasses fell off due to the impact. But the scientist brushed the attack off like nothing happened. Hi. Like I said, you can't win. But Natsu still didn't listen to Daphne and continuously punched and kicked her, but soon his right hand went numb and limp and was unable to move. What the heck? The fairy tale mage blurted out in surprise, stopping his attack for a second. But a second is all it takes for a match you were going to win into a complete loss. Flames engulfed Daphne's foot as she kicked Natsu on her numb arm, causing extreme pain for the boy who crumpled to the floor. What did you do? Not only to me but to you. The fire mage questioned her. A good scientist never reveals their plans. Daphne chuckled before her whole leg was covered in flames again. She then used said foot to kick Natsu out of the control room and to the outside, surprising all the mages that were expecting Daphne to come out unconscious after taking a beating from their comrade. Natsu got up again, but his right hand was pretty much pointless to the fight and added nothing to the fight at this point. I guess you could say, I'm all fired up. Daphne mocked her enemy. Dragon-hating, ability-stealing scum like you don't deserve to say anything at all. The teen barked at her before preparing his breath attack. Karyu no roar of that Natsu began. Karyu no rove of that Daphne also began preparing the same attack as Natsu. Hoko, fire dragon. They simultaneously shout DOS. Both their attacks clashed, but somehow Daphne's roar overpowered Natsu's roar, pushing Natsu back a bit. Hi. How many times do I have to tell you? You can't win. I'm so powerful right now that if I fractured a bone, I wouldn't feel a thing. Daphne notified Natsu. And with that failure of an arm that you currently have, there isn't any way you can win. That Daphne has a valid point. The familiar voice of the Moss Tear informed the spectators of the fight. Master. Most of the mages blurted out in surprise due to seeing their master. But that's only theoretically. The wizard saint added, hinting something. Everybody's attention turned back towards the ongoing fight between Natsu and Daphne. The scientist had been relentlessly attacking the Slayer's limp arm ever since she got a chance to attack. Karyu no Tekken, Iron Fist of the Fire Dragon. Natsu announced as he swung a sloppy left hook out of desperation, exposing his midsection. Unfortunately for the teenager, Daphne wasn't only a genius at inventing and creating new machinery. She landed a swift kick coated in flames on the vulnerable area, which could have broken Natsu's ribs if it had more speed and power to it. The kick made the fire mage stagger backwards out of punching distance as Daphne followed up with her own original move. Karyu no Flaminguduru, Flaming Tail of the Fire Dragon. The magic-stealing wizard executed a pick. Toure perfect Mawashi Jerry, spin kick with her feet smothered in flames that resembled that of a dragon swinging his or her own tail. As her foot crashed into Natsu's face, he could do nothing but take the hit and fall to the ground. However, the Magic Council's worst nightmare stood back up on his feet in a matter of seconds, surprising Daphne. Looks like that last attack gave me a good idea. If she's really absorbed all properties to my dragon-slaying magic, that means, Dragneel thought. You can't doze off in a battle. The genius told Natsu as she went in for a quick jab, but the Dragon Air's limp arm was suddenly back in action as he used it to deliver a rapid blow to Daphne's nose, giving her a nosebleed as a bonus. The scientist's nose was bent out of proportion and was obviously broken, but as she said herself, she couldn't feel a thing. How is your arm even working? Daphne questioned with widened eyes. All you did was put some messed up liquid in my arm, and all I did was burn it off. Salamander grinned. And now I'm going to pay you back, he told her while continuing to grin. 100 times over. He finished before charging towards Daphne at an unfathomable speed. Landing a lightning-quick right hook, her face was driven into a sideway downwards from the force of the punch before her face was met by Natsu's flame-coated left leg. The second attack made her stumble backwards with no guard as the attacker continued his attacks. He hit a barrage of punches enhanced with his fire dragon slaying magic, thus creating fiery explosions every time he punched her. His penultimate move in the combo was a flaming uppercut. Metsuryu Ogi, Gurren Karyuken, Dragon Slayer's secret art, Crimson Lotus, Fire Dragon's Fist. Natsu barked as he landed a destructive middle punch straight on Daphne's ribs, which were probably broken. The force knocked her all the way back to the control. Son of Igneel slowly walked over to the control room where the dragon-crazed fanatic was about to get up. Natsu grabbed her by the collar before vaguely saying, "I'll show you the true weakness of a dragon slayer." He then dragged the scientist by her collar. She tried to fight back but in a few seconds. She had extreme motion sickness. I knew he would resort to this. Makarov sighed. But that's a pretty smart move coming from someone like him. The Sandame admitted. The sick combatant groaned as she was suffering from motion sickness. Once they both finally reached the others, Natsu stopped dragging her and allowed her to recover from the few minutes of hell she just experienced. The fairy tale mages slowly surrounded her with looks of hate in their eyes. "We should give her into the Magic Council." One person murmured. "No, we should ban her from the whole continent itself." Another mumbled. This constant murmuring continued for a few minutes as the perpetrator had recovered. "Enough." The master ordered, making everybody's conversation come to a close. "She shall not be handed to the Magic Council for her crimes, nor is she being deported from the continent of Fury. She shall be taken in as a fairy tale mage. But, my decision is final." Makarov boomed at the mages who quivered in fear upon hearing his loud voice. "Of course, she will be taking the appropriate punishment, which I can't think of at the moment," the elderly man added. Gray then walked up to his master and whispered something into his ear. Makarov's serious face suddenly turned into that of a perverse one before blood flowed out of his nose like it was a waterfall. As Gray finished up his idea, Makarov suddenly shot into the air, his blood carrying high up into the night sky before all the mages could see was a twinkle in the distance. "Looks like the master is flying off, again." Gray sighed as they turned their attention back towards Daphne. The raven-haired teen stuck his hand out for the scientist to help her up from the ground. Daphne started crying at the sight of this. Friends, real friends, Daphne thought as tears kept streaming out of her eyes as she was pulled up by Gray, her newfound crush. Another love rival contesting for Gray-sama's love. Juvia thought as she stared down Daphne. "All you did was put some messed up liquid in my arm, and all I did was burn it off." Salamander grinned. "And now I'm going to pay you back," he told her while continuing to grin. 100 times over. He finished before charging towards Daphne at an unfathomable speed, landing a lightning-quick right hook. Her face was driven into a side. Way downwards from the force of the punch before her face was met by Natsu's flame-coated left leg. The second attack made her stumble backwards with no guard as the attacker continued his attacks. He hit a barrage of punches enhanced with his fire dragon slaying magic, thus creating fiery explosions every time he punched her. His penultimate move in the combo was a flaming uppercut. Metsuryu Ogi. Gurren Karyuken, Dragon Slayer's secret art. Crimson Lotus, Fire Dragon's fist. Natsu barked as he landed a destructive middle punch, straight on Daphne's ribs, which were probably broken. The force knocked her all the way back to the control. Son of Igneel slowly walked over to the control room where the dragon-crazed fanatic was about to get up. Natsu grabbed her by the collar before vaguely saying, "I'll show you the true weakness of a dragon slayer." He then dragged the scientist by her collar. She tried to fight back but in a few seconds, she had extreme motion sickness. "I knew he would resort to this." Makarov sighed. "But that's a pretty smart move coming from someone like him," the Sandame admitted. The sick combatant groaned as she was suffering from motion sickness. Once they both finally reached the others, Natsu stopped dragging her and allowed her to recover from the few minutes of hell she just experienced. The fairy tale mages slowly surrounded her with looks of hate in their eyes. "We should give her into the Magic Council." One person murmured. "No, we should ban her from the whole continent itself." Another mumbled. This constant murmuring continued for a few minutes as the perpetrator had recovered. "Enough." The master ordered, making everybody's conversation come to a close. "She shall not be handed to the Magic Council for her crimes, nor is he being exiled from the continent of Fury. She shall be taken in as a fairy tale mage. But, my decision is final." Makarov boomed at the mages who quivered in fear upon hearing his loud voice. "Of course, she will be taking the appropriate punishment, which I can't think of at the moment," the elderly man added. Gray then walked up to his master and whispered something into his ear. Makarov's serious face suddenly turned into that of a perverse one before blood flowed out of his nose like it was a waterfall. As Gray finished up his idea, Makarov suddenly shot into the air, his blood rying high up into the night sky before all the mages could see was a twinkle in the distance. Looks like the master is flying off, again. Gray sighed as they turned their attention back towards Daphne. The raven-haired teen stuck his hand out for the scientist to help her up from the ground. Daphne started crying at the sight of this. Friends, real friends, Daphne thought as tears kept streaming out of her eyes as she was pulled up by Gray, her newfound crush. Another love rival contesting for Gray-sama's love. Juvia thought as she stared down at Daphne, flames visible within her eyes. Though weird for a person who manipulates water. Flashback end. In the city of Magnolia. The town of Magnolia was currently undergoing heavy reconstruction after the attacks that had taken place less than a week ago, however. Due to the help of the fairy tale mages, the town was going to be back in action sooner than expected. With the reconstruction nearly finished, the workload of the guild members had been considerably lightened as they would soon be permitted to take jobs once again. However, there was one place in this residential area that would never be fully fixed due to certain reasons. And that place happened to be the guild hall of the fairy tale building. Yet again, another guild brawl was taking place as the master and a few more sane members could only watch their comrades continuously lower the money that fairy tale currently had. A familiar face had walked out the infirmary with a slight limp, still not fully recovered from the fight he had with the one who seemed to go by the name of Jackal. Looks like I haven't fully recovered yet, Obito thought as he looked down at his leg. Well, it's not like I can sleep through this ruckus, he internally said as he let Uda chuckle before proceeding to make his way to the bar where the master, Cana, Urza and Mirajan, who was situated behind the counter, was. Cana seemed to have passed out, probably from the exhaustio. And that came from rescuing a guild member from death. Urza seemed to be in a particularly foul mood as she mumbled to herself without repeat. The only word that could be made out from her mad ramblings was, cake, which didn't really come as a surprise as the Magnolia Bakery was still being fixed. How are you feeling, Obito? Mirajan asked, striking up conversation with the new member of the guild. It's not every day someone joins your guild and within the first month is already in a life-threatening situation. Unfortunately for Mira, that particular event brought light to another memory that she wanted to desperately forget no matter how many times she tried. I'm feeling better, though I wouldn't be feeling anything right now if it weren't for you and Cana. Obito said as he bowed in appreciation for their efforts. Also, I'm curious about something else. I saw Natsu in the infirmary as well. Did anything happen to him while I was asleep? It's nothing for you to worry about. There's more important matters to discuss, like that supposed demon you thought. Makarov interrupted as he suddenly donned a serious face. Even Urza stopped brooding as the atmosphere around the four tech Nickley 5, including the unconscious Cana, suddenly tensed up. Obito, what exactly happened? Obito explained everything that happened whilst on that mission, on how the supposed item was protected by the guild to how he had not only one but two fights against rather strong opponents, the second opponent being Jackal, some sort of shape-shifting canine who seemed to emit a different and even or darker feeling than what he felt when facing Zero, who Obito had assumed to be a demon. Interesting, Makarov stated as he folded his arms and thought for a bit. And you saw no magic seal during the duration of both fights, correct? He inquired as Obito confirmed this with just the nod of his head. Well, it's plausible, but the question that's actually going through my mind right now is about you. Makarov stated as a surprised look morphed on not only Obito's face but everyone else who was hearing the conversation. Me? What about me do you need to know about? Obito questioned as he would be confused on why the master would have a question regarding him. Obito, even if you have this energy called chakra, that doesn't exclude the fact that your physical abilities are practically at its peak. You equally managed to fight an enemy that Guildarts would have faced if the mistake hadn't happened. And not many would be able to complete such a feat. Obito, what exactly are you? The doctor. Iyar asked as he stared directly at a slightly unnerved Obito. Mirajan's and Urza's eyes also redirected to the Uchiha as even Cana slightly opened her eyes, awake enough to be curious of Obito's answer. To be honest with you all, I'm just a human like you guys, but it seems to me violence and bloodshed isn't so commonplace in this diamonds area. Obito stated, quickly correcting his mistake as explaining on how he came from a whole other dimension would be too much effort for him, seeing as he still didn't completely understand it himself. What do you mean by so commonplace? Urza asked with a confused look. Well, from where I come from at least, at a young age, our fighting skills are honed to a point where we're rather proficient at mixed martial arts. Unarmed combat from where I come from is called taijutsu. Also, while at a young age, we learn to master basic ninjutsu techniques. Ninjutsu is essentially what you would call spells. We all learn this at a place called the Academy. I come from a special bloodline that enhances my visual abilities, genjutsu, which is essentially illusions and allows me to use rare ninjutsu. While I was still a teenager, I was already participating in a war with another nation, and later on in my adulthood, I was the instigator of another war, something which I regret doing. And because of my foolishness, I nearly drove where I come from to the brink of extinction, and because of all these experiences, I have gained the strength that I have showcased a few times now. The ninja explained as they all donned a surprised look hearing his explanation. In other words, you've seen more than what some people would see in a lifetime. Makarov summarized as Obito agreed with his summary. This guy could level a whole guild if he wanted. The recently awoke Cana thought as she widened her eyes. Well, anyway, I need something to limit the power of my left eye, Obito stated, changing the subject as he referred to the Rinnegan that was in his left eye. And my clothes, they're in pieces. Are there any tailors in this area? He asked the quartet of fairy tale members. Yeah, there is one, though I'm not sure if the building got caught up in the disaster, Mira said as she placed a finger on her chin while looking up towards the ceiling, trying to recall the state of the building. I see, I'll go check it out now, Obito declared as he made his way to the exit. Suddenly, a familiar and attractive brunette swung his arm around her shoulder and supported the slightly limping Obito. You're not going to get anywhere fast with the state you're in now, Cana told Obito with a slightly annoyed face as she decided to aid and direct Obito to the tailor to get himself a new outfit. Thanks Cana, Obito said, slightly surprised. That she was helping him find the tailor when he should be the one repaying the favor towards her. It was a rather sunny day and the temperature was just about perfect, not too hot and yet at the same time, not too cold. Despite a few glares here and there once the pair had been recognized as fairy tale mages, they took a leisurely stroll throughout the town without much words exchanged as most signs of damage had disappeared. The master didn't really tell me what happened while I was recovering, mind filling me in? Obito asked, hoping he could get an answer from the booze addict. Cana let out a slight sigh before explaining the events that happened with Gray, Natsu, Daphne and the rest of the guild members that fought against the dragon construct in hopes of trying to stop the extinction of the town of Magnolia. Ah, I see, no wonder all this construction work is going on, Obito muttered to himself as Cana slowed down a bit before coming to a stop. Following the direction of her head being tilted towards the left, Obito read a sign saying, Magno Tailor. Thanks, I'll be fine from here though, he said as he thanked the female mage as his arm departed from her shoulder as his leg no longer felt weak. He effortlessly walked to the entrance before stopping at the doors. Turning his head around to see Cana, he waved goodbye at her who waved back before making her way back to the guild. Exhaling in disappointment as he looked at his heavily damaged clothing, he pushed the brown wooden double doors open to find a rather small shop. It bared resemblance to the boutiques that Obito saw back in his short stay in Konoha. Summertime was soon approaching in Fury, and that would explain why there was so much swimsuits and bikinis currently hanged up on the clothing racks. They seemed to be selling for quite a cheap price, seeing that it wasn't summer yet, but even the Uchiha could tell that the material used wasn't the best that could have been used in the production of the summer wear. He slowly walked towards the cashier who seemed to be the only staff in the shop, meaning he was probably the tailor. Examining each good on sale, he finally got to the cash point where he spotted two dressing rooms behind the woman. The woman was a rather short pink-haired lady that donned round glasses while dressed in a red short-sleeved garment with red leather, heeled, boots with laces the same color as the leather. Slightly nervous upon seeing Obito's rather peculiar face, she was still obliged to heed to the customer's desires. Hello sir, how may I assist you on this fine day? The presumed shop owner asked before a dawn of realization morphed upon her face as she saw the state of Obito's clothes. Chuckling in embarrassment while scratching the back of his head, Obito vaguely explained how his clothes got to such a bad state while also describing his ideal outfit to be. I see, well, the closest thing I have to what you're describing is this, the female pull. Ed out a box from a cupboard situated at her feet. Opening the sealed box with a sharp knife, she dug through the various contents of the box before pulling out a somewhat dark shade of green flakjack kit that had 3 scroll pouches on each side of the chest area, a neck guard, extra padding over the shoulders which is fastened on by steel buttons, and a zipper down the middle. The only thing T had actually differentiated it from those made and used in the elemental nations and especially Konoha was that it lacked the Uzushiogakure symbol that was normally integrated onto the back of the jacket. Rather surprised that he was able to be so lucky that the dressmaker had something in stock that shared a similarity to what he had imagined himself wearing if he didn't go down the path of darkness and stayed as a Konohagakure ninja. Would this suffice? The lone other person in the room inquired, while tilting her head to the side, waiting for a response. I guess so, but it wouldn't be too much of a hassle to make a few adjustments, will it? The dark-haired man asked back as he had a few certain ideas currently in his mind at the time. Meanwhile in the Fairy Tale Guild Hall. Cease your actions. Just because Master Makarov isn't here at this moment of time doesn't mean you can self-elect yourself as the temporary master. The familiar red-headed Requip user ordered with a stone GLA. Being directed to a rather tall and muscular blonde man with bluish-gray eyes and an obscure lightning bolt-shaped scar traveling from the top to bottom eyelid of his right eye. He sported a leopard print orange tunic with dark-lined sleeves reaching down below his elbows, and fur on the lower edges. Around his waist was a simple belt to which he attached the device linked to his magic headpiece. Hones as well as accompanying beige baggy jeans. And tell me Urza, who's going to stop me? Do you even know how much stronger I've gotten since I've last entered this guild? Not that you were a match for me in the first place. The stranger cockily boasted with a wicked grin plastered onto his face, his ego practically radiating off him as if it were heat. Expecting Urza to counter his statement, the guild members were slightly surprised when Urza looked down to the floor, signaling his statement was the truth. Opposite to the energetic mood that is normally seen in the hall, everybody had rather pale faces. Hoping this situation would end sooner rather than later. Though Urza, why are you so against me doing this? I'm only acting out the inevitable, you can't deny it yourself. My Gigi is going to kick the bucket anytime soon and is his only blood relative presently associated with the guild. I'm the legitimate successor to this failure of a guild. He said as his eyes darted from member to member with a look of disgust present within his eyes. Starting from the floorboards on this ground up to the roof, I'll tear down this whole building and remake this guild from scratch. And then I'll reform. Yada yada. If I wanted to hear about your fantasies, I would have said so. A slightly tipsy Cana interrupted, as she sluggishly stumbled and made her way towards the Drayar. Stopping a few meters away from him, she then continued with what she was going to say. Get this through your thick head, we're not going to bow down to the likes of you, and I'm sure as hell even if the master dies. You surely won't be a candidate to be the next master with that stupid mentality of yours. Cana brashly declared as the guild members widened their eyes seeing the alcoholic out of all people stand up to one of the strongest mages of the fairy tale. Maybe I'm going to have to change my plans, before any renovation can be done with this building. The blonde began as he began to clench his right fist in presumably anger. I'll get rid of useless scrap like you. He barked as a few stray lightning bolts could be seen escaping his arm as he retracted his upper limb, then proceeding to violently extend it. His fist solidly connecting with the brunette's nose as she was knocked back all the way to the bar where she originally got up from. Crashing into the stools before finally hitting the bar itself. She struggled to stay conscious as blood dripped out of her nose. Laxus. That was uncalled for. Murajan shouted as she and another member, Lucy, crouched beside Cana to provide basic medical attention. Laxus only did what was coming to her, a green-haired man that served under Laxus in what was possibly Fairy Tale's strongest team that is active, the Raijenshu Thunder God tribe. This man seemed to go by the name as Freed and was Laxus' most loyal lackey. His two teammates were beside him on each side as they watched their sensei's actions. The relationship between the trio and the blonde had never really been established as all three members seemed to hold a different level of respect for him. Anybody else want to complain? I'll be sure to knock some sense into you, literally. Laxus questioned as he raised his fist up to his face as a warning. At that exact moment, the doors gradually creaked open as a large beam of sunlight shot in, shadowing the figure that unhurriedly closed the distance between himself and the Dreyar. Thanks for watching.